Hello. Hello. Very good morning. Happy Thursday. You're welcome to me and the cat. Hello, cat. Hope you're keeping well today, friends. We start off with some Navigraph Academy. Today we're going to be working on slow flight and the use of flaps. And slow flight, we've a bit of Jesus. Did you just see what happened there? Right. Talk about your screen disappearing in a flash. There's all sorts of crazy going on. Slow flight and the use of flaps. And we're kind of used to that because, well, slow flight, usually as we're transitioning from, your cruise to descent approach, you're going to be slowing things right down. But also keeping minimum speed, we find this happens quite a bit on VATSIM. We could be told lowest possible speed until we get closer to the runway. It helps with spacing and all the jazz. A little bit later on then, we're going to be previewing tonight's VATSIM flight as we prepare for our Christmas special, as we're flying in some beautiful parts of the world in Sweden and Finland, and it's going to be gorgeous and great. Yeah. And I have to learn everything again because we've been used to flying in. You're charming, you. If I did that, I'd be put outside. You know that? Jesus. But anyway, let us see what happens, friends. And as I said, you're all very welcome in. Any questions in relation to flight simulation? If you've any issues or problems or general questions, now's the time to ask. And we'll be having a closer look at the Navigraph charts soon as well. Jesus, then would you stop? Christ. But anyway, who's here? Look, Chalks, you're very welcome aboard. 98 Vulcan, top of the morning to you, buddy. Eamon 1973, good day to you, sir. Spitfire RAF 100 is here in the chat. I washed my Skoda this morning. Yeah. Since we're talking about washing, the Skoda, tis absolute. It got its, monthly wash. It's only gleaming, right? So the Skoda is sparkly. Anyway, who else came in the door there? Toombs, good morning. Soaring AJ. AJH, man, hope you're well. Naughty Gnome is in the chat. Good to see you, man. Hope you're well. Foxfly Studio. Good morning, buddy. Hope you're well. Crafty Tigers is here. Commander Balosh, a very good afternoon. Vex Freeze, watching for 3 in a row. Thank you very much indeed. Malky is in the house. Happy Thursday, my dude. Cracker 1963, good morning, hope you're well. Apache's here. Vulcan is here with a 25 stream streak. Thank you very much indeed. Martel, top of the morning to you. Apache for 50 streams in a row. Thank you very much. Then out of nowhere, look, Commander Balosh gifted 20 tier 1 subs to our community here on Twitch. That is insane support. Commander Balosh, thank you very, very much indeed. And lads, if you just got a tier 1 sub with thanks to Commander Balosh, do be sure to say thank you. The man is a legend. Toto2495 is in the chat. Welcome in. Echo 19, time to not do any work today. I need a break. You're very welcome in. Good to see you, Tyler. Hope all is well. And well, congratulations on the impeding release. Yes, you've been busy, flat out busy. So can't wait to get my hands on that 737 to listen to all your fantastic sounds, man. It's going to be fun. Balut, cautious. There is a Merv next to the cat. Indeed, right? You'll be put in prison, not inside. Cats. Yeah, they're brilliant, aren't they? Jordan is here. Welcome aboard. Jimbo Stream, good morning. Working and lurking. Yes. Gar Gaming, top of the morning to you. Hope all is well in County Galway. Hope you're well. Malky says, if you could do that, Merv, you would be infamous. She's all right now. She's calmed it down, Top Gun Lenny, welcome in. Willow How Much is here. The Impossible Face, welcome in. PH Roy, good to see you, Roy. Hope all is well. It's all go, isn't it? Navigraph have been flat out with their updates. And, oh, Jesus, I'm after knocking something. Me toe. Hang on, I need to fix this. Get in there. Fixed. Navigraph, they've been flat out busy with all their updates. But of course, we have Navigraph Academy, which is for free. And that's what we're kind of baiting on with, Kubi Montana is here. Good morning to you, man. Hope all is well. Nerf My Age, good morning. Was supposed to visit relatives today, but the body said, nah, let's catch the flu and watch Murph instead. The Murph flu, it almost kills someone every year, But keep well, my dude. Paparazzi is here. Good morning. Out of hospital and back to work. Great news. Hope you're well, buddy. Hope you're well. The upside down person has arrived. Mrs. TPHI says, good morning. Good morning. Hope you're well. Creo, good morning to you. Hope all is well in County Mayo. It's, what are we at? It's 10 degrees here in Tipperary. 10 degrees in Tipperary. And tomorrow is to be between 6 and 9, and then Saturday is to be between 2 and 9. So the weather's gone nuts, isn't it? Gar Gaming says, doing good now in this part of Galway since the power came back on. We had thunder and lightning earlier. Oh, Jesus, really? Yikes. Tyler says, Murph, I haven't really flown IFR, but I think it would be really cool to get into it, especially having worked on the 7.3. It has inspired me to learn the systems more in depth, as well as doing actual procedures. What are some good resources for learning the basics? Well, IFR flying, we've done some courses on IFR, a lot of the ATC side of it, right? But Tyler, if you ramble over to the website, twotonemurphy.com, and if you go into the Learn ATC series, right, go into the FAA course, it's the most recent, go into that, and inside there is a ground school document. Now, the ground school document has an absolute barrowload of theory, right? And it explains everything you need to know in relation to ATC during instrument flight rules. But they also give you access. You can use the Boston Virtual, the ARTCC. It's called Wings Over New England. It's an excellent course. You can do VFR and IFR. And there's decent, it's a decent place to start. We've done IFR stuff here. We've done VOR navigation, standard GPS navigation, DME, all the sort of jazz. And we'll touch on it more as these courses kind of progress. We started off with the Navigraph Academy, this to get us a virtual PPL. But I'm very much wanting to do my own ground course, which will cover everything from how to read charts, understanding airspaces, rules of airports, signage, all that kind of jazz. And then, of course, we get into navigation. So we'll have visual flight rules, and then we'll have instrument flight rules, dead reckoning, all this sort of stuff. So here is kind of the place, but there is also a ton of resources out there. But IFR flying, it's once it's the trick is, or the secret is, it's knowing your aircraft quite well, as in knowing the depth of systems, knowing what it can do. Now, something like the 737, it's a fairly complex machine, right? Naturally. But if you're comfortable with something like that, great. I'd always recommend starting something general aviation that is a very capable IFR flying. Something like, for instance, a TBM or, the Dukes, of course, the Baron, the Bonanza. The AccuSim aircraft are excellent for IFR as well. So you have a lot of good options there. But I would start relatively simple with the aircraft, so you're not pulling your hair out, and the curve of learning isn't as sharp, if that makes sense. Do you know? But there's a lot of fun when it comes to IFR for sure. Because let's face it, even in in the real world, it's not like we can't just wait around and wait for the weather to be clear. So we need to know what the crack is. Filthy is here. Good morning. Hope you're well. Tarnish Mossman just got the Eurofighter, but it's not letting me activate it. Where'd you buy it from, Tarnish? The Impossible Face says the Boston virtual ARTCC stuff is class. Yeah, it's excellent. It is an excellent training program. Absolutely. I learned the basics on the Zebo 7.3 a very long time ago, inputting routes into the FMC. An actual course would be super cool, similar to the Navigraph Academy. 100%. What we'll probably do, these are other things I want to do on Thursdays. We'll deep dive into specific aircraft to learn them inside and out. And it's stuff I've always wanted to do. You know what I mean? So we'll target that. Learning the basics of flying, and then we tie in navigation. They're kind of the first bits we need to do. Then we'll delve into aircraft and systems, and that's what we'll go for that. Cows planes are really handy for learning too. They are excellent. The Diamond aircraft from Cows are amazing. I have a PPL in real life, but I haven't gotten into IFR yet. All right, well then you're kind of half laughing. So it's more the systems in terms of flight planning, nav aids, direct to holes, minimums, visibility options, all this kind of stuff. So we can help you out with that for sure. Tarnish got it from Just Flight and it won't activate. That's an interesting one, Tarnish. Yeah, you'll have to open up an out support ticket, you would think. Just Flight are usually very good at that stuff though. Jebison 2001, the man, myth and legend, has rambled in. What news of the realm? He says, morning Murph and Fireflies. 1 week to go. Murph, have you bought any presents? No, I'm waiting until Saturday. I'm going to get up Saturday morning at the crack of dawn. We're going to go down and get her food shop in, come back, we're going to eat sausage rolls. Then immediately after, we're going to drive to Limerick and do our shopping. running around the place like a man possessed. I'll buy stupid things. That's the plan for this year. Looking forward to it, right? Some people are organised. I am not. Well, I'm organised. Technically, I am organised. I've organised the chaos, right? So that's what I'm going to be about. But yeah, it'll be grand, right? You'll hear me, you know. Was that the wind? No, it's Murph. He's doing shopping. Right, that's how it's all going to work. But anyway, we're going to get started on today's lesson, in which we're going to be doing slow flight and the use of flaps. Now, as I said, with slow flight, it's controlling the aircraft at low speed and then understanding exactly what the flaps are for and what they will allow us to do. Because, you know, takeoff and landing, yes, right, they will allow the aircraft sustain flight at a much lower speed. Right, but they're technically lifting equipment. Flaps are lifting equipment, so they're going to help us if the aircraft perhaps is a little bit heavy, and it'll shorten our takeoff roll. You see, so they're not just for do I need or shouldn't I need? There's a bit to this lesson. It's interesting. Roy says, Murph, have you also considered an aviation meteorology course? Yes, that's going to be all part of it, Roy, when it comes to our flight plan. Now, we're somewhat limited even today in flight simulation when it comes to the weather, right? Depicting clouds. I mean, when you're flying, as Echo, you've your PPL, right? Keep your weather minimal. Understanding clouds and formations, and when you look at a cloud, you can actually get a good idea of what's actually happening in terms of the winds and, you know, turbulence and whatnot. We're limited in the same because there's a lack of cloud types, cloud structures. Some of them are there, right? But overall, they're not terribly accurate. They look pretty, but they're not terribly accurate. So when it comes to understanding meteorology, when it comes to flying, everything from the information that we get, be it from METAR, TAFs, ADIS information, right? Looking up general forecasting, understanding pressures, the difference between a front and, you know, right? All of these things. Winds aloft are also important. Signets, they're all there as well. So yeah, there's quite a bit to it. Learning your PPL mandates you to be a meteorologist. There's like it's volume 4. I think it's volume 4 meteorology, and it's I think it's 400 and odd pages of weather. Right? I mean, you'll read it and you'll be like, "That's it. I now am a weatherman." There's a frightening amount of stuff in it, but it's all it's very interesting stuff. But then it's understanding, you know, how to almost predict change of weather and what that weather is going to impact, be it on your flight plan or your navigating, but also on the aircraft and its engine. There's a lot of stuff to kind of figure out there, but it's awesome. It's just so much information in it. It is pretty cool. MDA, good to see you, man. Happy Thursday, buddy. And did you get your man? Did you? He was down to one gun. Brilliant. They were playing Star Citizen, and they were blown the shite out. It looked brilliant. It's like an episode of Star Trek. I always thought meteorology was cool growing up, so learning weather and how it affects flight and aircraft was super cool. But it is a lot of information. Yeah, you wiped him out. Yup, devil you. Nice one, MDA. Yeah, like with the Navigraph virtual PPL, they don't necessarily touch on a lot of the ground school stuff that you would learn in the real world, specifically when it comes to human factors in aviation, you know, law, radio telephony, the weather, right, health and safety and all this kind of stuff. It's more aimed at, which is interesting, it's more aimed at physically flying, which there's always been a gap, right, as flight simmers come into it. Navigraph is kind of, you know, demything that or demystifying that, because what they're showing it, this is what it is. So yeah, like with weather, I'll go in, I'll show you what we have in terms of information. Like we have a fair whack of stuff there, so stand by, we'll have a look at this now. Mr. Minimite, good morning, hope you're well. Right, we'll press a button and another button, and I'm nearly slipped. We'll come over here and I'll show you the ground school document, just to give you an idea of some of the stuff that we've covered. Now, again, this was aimed primarily for ATC, right? But the plan with this was, when the website loads, the plan with this was, if you go into Learn ATC series, right, and just click on the FAA conversion course, right, and in here, go to the ground school document. Now, you have an option with this document. There's a PDF viewer built into the website, so it should work on any browser, or you can download the whole gadget if you wish. Right? Just click save, and it'll say, well, where do you want it? It should show it in there. and then we'll take it out of there. And here we go. Right, perfect. So here is our ground school document. And what we have here, you'll see, is the virtual ATC VF4 ground school. And then we move it on to the then we move it on to the ATC IFR. And then at the end of it, we go to the FAA. Everything we learn in the first two chapters here, or the first two sections, if you like, it's heavily involved with ICAO and, you know, EAC or EASA stuff. But for example, if we were to look down to see, well, references, so we have abbreviations, the phonetic alphabet, radio checks, all that sort of stuff. Charts, right? How do we use charts? Then we go into ATIS abbreviations. That tends to catch a lot of people out when they see all these letters after some ATIS information. There's a full breakdown as to what these all mean, right? Also, we have METAR, understanding what a METAR is. Now, a lot of software will decode this for you, including modern EFBs, but it's good to know what all this stuff actually means, right? So, for example, if we were to look at this line here, and you might be saying, yeah, Murph, it's weird, right? Well, I can read that without even worrying about it now. It's just something that you just pick up, right? So the first little bit is the airfield or airport identifier. In this case, Echo India November November. That's Shannon, and we'll see here 010930. Pardon me, Zulu, right? So what they mean by 01, it is the first day of the month, and the time is at 0930 Zulu. So if we were looking at a METAR today, it should say 180930 Zulu, or whatever time it was done at. Right? Next over now, we have information regarding the winds, because it has this KT at the side of it, and that indicates knots. Speed are in knots. Knot is about 1.15 statute miles. So if you see 10 knots, it's about, what's that? 1.15. It's about 10 knots is about 15 mile an hour, give or take, right? Anyway, this one here is 010. So that's the heading. And then you have the wind speed of 5 knots. So the wind is 5 knots blowing in from 010. Or if you think of your 360 degree clock, well, 010 is coming in from the northeast. All right. Next up, you could get a load of numbers. If you see 9999 and mean it's greater than 10 miles or kilometers, or if there's a lower number like 4000, it means that the visibility is this range. All right. Next, we have our cloud information. So this one here says there are few clouds at 1500 feet, 1500, broken clouds at 3300 feet. Our temperature in Celsius is 6 degrees. Our dew point is which the temperature, air, water kind of freezes, right? So our dew point is 2 degrees, right? And these are all in Celsius. If you ever see your temperature and dew point very close to one another, it's usually an indication of fog. Usually, if you see the dew point in the minus figures, you get an M or you get a minus. It's just letting you know that, well, cold, right? Then we have our QNH, which is our barometric pressure, your altimeter, effectively. And in this, it's set as hectopascals. In this one, it's going to be 1036. And then it says no sig. No sig. Well, no sig means no significant change. The weather shouldn't change that much. All right. And you might hear that on the weather reports on the radio or on the TV. They'll hear, they'll talk about different, they'll talk about different pressures. They might say rising slowly or falling rapidly. That they're talking about the pressure, right? But then they might say no significant change. You might hear them say that, or changing significantly, or rapid change, right? So the next one below it then, this is going to show Lake Tahoe, I think it is. That's the identifier. Again, the first day of the month at 0853 Zulu. Automated weather, right? So it's an automated weather station. It's not a weather person. Winds 2004 knots. Visibility greater than 10 miles. Broken at 3000. Broken at 4900. Overcast at 8000. Temperature is -8. Dew point is -9. See the M? And then your altimeter 2948. Where you see the A and the numbers, you're flying US side, because Europe would be very much on the hectopascals on QNH. All right. So altimeter, which is measured in millibars, and then you have degree, or is measured in, what am I saying? Inches of mercury and millibars, right? And that's a standard METAR. Then a TAF is similar. A TAF is kind of much the same, but a TAF is a forecast, terminal area forecast. So your TAF is going to give you a little bit more information of what it thinks is going to happen, right? So if you come down here and you have a look at TAFs, it stands for Terminal Aerodrome Forecast. Very similar to your METAR, it uses the same sort of language. If the TAF indicates the following message, BECMG. Any idea what that means? BECMG. And think about it. They're talking about weather forecasting. They're trying to, this is what's going to happen. So BECMG, what it means, be coming, right? There you go. You got it. Frozen Gamer, good to see you. Paul is here. Welcome in. Mulgoon, hope you're well. Do you have like a PPL for simulator? Well, that's what Navigraph are doing, and it's free. It's available to everyone. If you go to the Navigraph Academy, you can build a virtual private pilot license. Now you're scratching the surface with it. Aviation is just one of those topics. There's always something to learn. And you can go as deep or as shallow as you like. I mean, that's your call. But there is so much information in aviation. Anyone who's interested in aviation, as you know, as a byproduct, you're actually interested in learning, despite of what you might actually think. I hate learning new things. If you're interested in aviation, that's the brain telling you you want to learn more. It's just one of those things, right? But anyway, that's what becoming means. And then you'll see, like, you know, 1706, 1712. Some of these will indicate wind, time, pressure, all the jazz. And you'll see there's a full breakdown here. Then they go into other things, prob, and then a number. The probability of that becoming something, and they'll give it a number. You know, the lower the number, the less probable. The higher the number, the more probable. That makes sense? And that's the idea there. Then we have our information. Each ATIS is given a letter to identify it. Why? Because, well, the weather changes during the day. So that's why we have information alpha, information bravo, information Charlie, and so on. That's what all that is there for. They usually change every 30 minutes or 1 hour. I don't actually know exactly. I've heard an hour, I've heard 30 minutes, and then other stations have contradicted that. So just know they change. Information, bubba, 100%. Now, what else do we have here? So that's weather. Charts are important. So if you're, you know, if you want to be worrying and working on, if you're, you know, how to use aviation charts. We use charts for all types of flying, but they are most important during instrument flight rules, right? Because you need to be following your charts. They have critical information as to what altitude you can fly at, the speeds you can fly at, waypoints, and all the jazz. If you're flying in IFR conditions, basically, it's the job of getting your aircraft systems to be able to follow a flight plan which is adhering to the charts. Make sense? That's the challenge for the pilot. You need to get your aircraft systems to be able to follow the flight plan which has been built using your charts. That makes sense? So that's the idea behind it. And again, in this ground school document that we have, it goes through all the different types of charts. And it's a very brief, quick overview of what charts are, right? But it gives you an idea. Now, when it comes to reading charts, so if I were to bring up Navigraph now, for example, and I'll show you this briefly, we're going on a bit of a sideways tangent, but this is interesting stuff, and I will delve a lot more into this, right? We now thankfully have two types of charts. Technically there's three, but we have two types in which we can now use with Navigraph. We have IFR charts, instrument flight rules, and we now have VFR charts. All right. These other charts are basically sectional charts, right? Sectional charts. And the reason why we call them sectionals and they're available, they're basically all the different sectional charts, sections bundled together, and we have one continuous canvas. The alternative to this, of course, was your old sheet 56 or, you know, aviation chart, right? Usually done by ISO, and they would give you a certain area of VFR charts. So the one I have for Ireland prior to having the new Rogers stuff that Navigraph secured, that's like $20. It's laminated, but as soon as you buy it or it's printed, it's out of date because paper charts, they're out of date straight away. You know, Stealth Rooster, good to see you. I'd love to fly in Microsoft Flight Sim on VATSIM, but I've no idea where to start in terms of learning how to fly a plane to a point of being able to comply with all the ATC directions. But it seems like I should start with your streams. So all the lessons we've currently done, Stealth, they're all available on YouTube. All of them. Start off with your VFR, then you go IFR, and then we do our FAA conversion, because the courses actually teach you a lot more than just the ground school understanding. We actually go all the way into the lessons. And if you were to look at the very first lesson, and they're highlighted here, you can click on this, how to do a radio check. We've actually designed a script. The pilot, that's you, who you're talking to, who you are, what you want, right? And then we've written down, well, this is what ATC should respond with, or very, very close to it. Depending on where you're flying in the world, there's always going to be little differences from ATC. Oh, we don't say that here. Oh, we don't do that here, right? So it's only familiarity. Do a bit of reading prior to it. But don't worry about it too much. Don't let that kind of throw you off. The important thing is, when you're communicating with ATC, clear and quick. And the reason why you want to be quick, you don't want to be hogging the airwaves for someone else, but make sure it's clear. And rule number one, if you do not understand what's being said to you, you ask them to repeat. If they're saying it too fast, you ask them to repeat slowly. It's okay to do that, right? Once you're not trolling them. But what I'd highly recommend is, starting off, the Navigraph Virtual Pilot Private License is an excellent way, because it's going to teach you how to fly correctly. And it's teaching you the skills in which you're going to develop. You can then push them onto other aircraft. The differences between the other aircraft is going to be the engine type, the systems it has on board, and its flight envelope effectively, right? So they're the things you're going to learn in addition. But all the basics remain the same. They're all the same, In the real world, you start off with a small general aviation airplane and you work your way all the way up. You know what I mean? With ATC, you can ask, say again, slower, or repeat slower. Saves them time and frustration if you didn't catch it. 100%. Yeah, 100%. Have you looked at the new heli sectionals? I did, Nerf. Yeah, I did. I was looking at them last night. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So what else do we have then in this document? So that was charts 8 is airspace, which is terribly important. You need to know where you are allowed fly into or out of, but also what are the requirements of entering or exiting airspace. Airspace is critically important, especially if you want to go flying especially if you want to go flying on VATSIM. Airspace is critical. Do you know what I mean? Gil, good to see you. If you still want to fly the Alouette on air rescues, they now have disabled the payload auto set so you can complete these missions in the helicopter. Great news! Fantastic news, yes. I'm unsure where the issue was, because I thought it was with the helicopter. But yes, we will have to do some Alouette flying, definitely with on air very, very soon. I want to do some of those rescue missions. The issue I was having on air was auto setting the weight, but there was a glitch then between the center of gravity, which I think was locked on the aircraft from Teog's hangar. So it just didn't like it. It was like, no, I can't load anything. Do you know what I mean? So if that's fixed, Gil, that's great news, man. Thank you very, very much indeed. And we'll absolutely have to do that, because I love doing that, especially with the Alouette. Right, so the other stuff, then we have airspace, then we have our ground operations, right? What do we say at the various things? Startup, taxiing, taking off. Then we talk about flight plans, VFR versus an IFR flight plan. So for Echo, this is something entirely you'd want to be looking at, understanding the difference between both. There isn't really a requirement to have a VFR flight plan, but in the real world, as you know, it's important to say, well, I'm going from here and I'm going to there. If I'm not at there by this time, there's something up. You know what I mean? And then you go into planning. Then we talk about the VATSIM flight plan and how that differs, if you like, from real world stuff, which, to be honest, there's not much in the difference. What else then? Flight plan's great. Uncontrolled airports. They're a thing on VATSIM, which is mad, but it's just the way VATSIM is, right? They don't have controllers worldwide 24/7. They do have a lot of coverage, though. But in flight simulation, we have uncontrolled airports that have to deal with IFR traffic. In the real world, if it's IFR, there's a tower there, or they're using some very fancy, technology. You know what I mean? There's plenty of uncontrolled airports in the world. Airports close, right? Some of them aren't staffed. But for IFR, usually you would be under ATC for that. Then we talk about the flight information service. Then we get into heading, track, bearing, and course. That's a lot of the IFR stuff, right? Then we have our IFR instrument flight rules, what it is, the introduction, when we fly IFR, right? What it all looks like, IFR flight planning, and how we can see what's happening. What else do we have? Scheduled block times, your departure times, and so on. You can still do IFR at uncontrolled or from. Can you fly into an airport that's uncontrolled under IFR, Malky? I imagine you can, but like they need to have like ILS and all the jazz, right? Isn't that the case? Mac Vision, good morning. Hope you're well. Yeah, it makes sense. You can be able to take off and land in IFR, provided that airport has the equipment for you, because, well, you need it. It's an IFR approach. If the airport doesn't have VOR or ILS or RNAV, well, then you can't. You know, yeah, lots of RNAV approaches now. Okay, sweet. Flight planning and fuel, that's all kind of nice to know stuff, right? But again, it's aimed at VATSIM flying, and then it goes on and on and on. So there's a whole IFR phraseology, how it works, how do we communicate during IFR flights, adapting to change, IFR lessons are all there, and then we get into our FAA conversion course. So there's an absolute barrel load of stuff there. If you want to go specifically learning when it comes to IFR, that's something that we will do at a later date. Like, for example, we're talking about charts, right? And understanding what charts mean, and then understanding what your flight plan means. But if you're going for IFR flying, you have either IFR low altitude routes or IFR high altitude routes. And the difference being, well, your type of aircraft. If you're in something like, you know, a Cessna 210, well, you're not going to be using the high airways. You're going to be on the lower airways. And they all have their own different rules. They'd have their own tracks. They'd have their own routes, right? And so on and so forth. So with Navigraph, we can go in and have a look at all the various airspaces. And now, of course, that we have the VFR charts for Europe, which is brand new. This is just excellent. It's excellent. When you start training for IFR, everything you've learned from VFR is fine. VFR flying is 10% your instruments, 90% looking outside. IFR, it's the complete opposite. The complete opposite. You're flying from inside. You're looking at your instruments, flight directors, all the sort of jazz, do you know? So that's all coming down the road if anyone's interested. And we'll, as I said, we'll do more on that at a later date. But for today, we'll be looking at that later. For today, friends, we're going to be working on our Navigraph virtual PPL. Stu Snape, good morning to you, buddy. Hope you're well. So we're progressing through this nicely. All right, we've done our introduction, the effects of the controls. We've done level flight and turns, climbs, descents. Last week we did stalls and dive to max speed. All right, today it's all about slow flight and the use of flaps. So learn the art of slow flight, maintain altitude, practice turns, and manage flap extensions to prepare for our upcoming takeoff, landing, and traffic pattern lessons. All right. Now, as I said, when we talk about slow flight, my advice to anyone who wants to learn how an airplane flies in a flight sim, fly it at its lowest possible speed and try and keep control of it. It's the quickest way you're going to learn, right? Because you figure out where the envelope is, right? Anyway, let's go into this lesson. I took a breath there, Eamon, thanks. So welcome to lesson 6. In the last lesson, we pushed the airplane to its limit with high-speed dives, and we also practiced safe recovery. This time, we're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to fly at slow speeds, learning how to use the flaps to fly even slower. The concept of slow flight. Flying is often about speed, but why would you want to fly slow? Well, a slower approach speed means a shorter stopping distance, making a safer landing. Don't worry about soft landings and all that jazz. Don't worry about that. This is all about having accurate and safe landings, right? We also need to slow down in the traffic pattern or the circuit to be able to configure flaps for landing and our approach. Okay. Slow flight is all about maintaining altitude while reducing speed. As your airspeed decreases, you will need to increase pitch attitude to generate enough lift to stay level. This principle connects back to our earlier lesson on stalls, but this time we're flying in a controlled, slow flight state without reaching the stall speed. More cowbell Cody, good to see you. So lift increasing factors. So far, We've only touched on parts of the lift formula. Now it's time to explore it fully. The total lift produced by the wings depends on several factors. The wing area, the shape of the wing, the angle of attack, i.e. the pitch attitude, and also the dynamic pressure of airflow, which increases with airspeed and air density. There's quite a lot that goes into this. You might have heard of air density. What happens the higher we go? What happens to the air the higher up we go? Two things happen to air. When we start climbing upwards, what happens to it, right? Two things happen to the air as we get higher and higher and higher. Have a think about it. Yeah, correct. We're seeing the answers coming in. So the higher we fly, the higher the altitude, two things happens to the air. One, it gets thinner. It thins out. It's not as dense anymore, right? Less air, less oxygen. Yeah. But it also gets colder. It gets cooler, right? So there are two critical factors we have to understand when we're flying at a higher altitude. The air thins out and it gets cold, all right? Before, we've used angle of attack to alter lift, which has helped us stay aloft when dynamic pressure decreases, as it does when we slow down. Now, by increasing the wing's area or changing its shape with the flap, we can generate more lift without raising the pitch attitude. This allows the aircraft to fly slower. Flaps are the key tool that help us achieve this. They extend the wing area and change its shape, making slow, controlled flight and safe landings possible. I want you to picture like a crow, a bird, right? A bird coming in to land. Think about it. When a bird is flying in the air, they're gliding in the air, they flap their wings to generate a bit of kind of momentum and thrust and lift. What do birds do? Think of the big eagle. Think of a big eagle coming in to land, right? But they don't just land like an airplane and, screech to a stop. Sure they don't. Their wings turn. It's called a flare. Their wings actually turn, and you'll see the wings look massive when they do this, because effectively what they're doing, they are flaring, but they are changing the shape of their wing. They're turning their wings in order to slow them down. You see, right? We can kind of do the same when it comes to a fixed wing airplane that has flaps, because we can extend the surface of the wing, i.e. we're going to make the wing bigger. And by doing so, it's going to have an impact on the airspeed, but also our lift capability with the wing. All right. If we have a look here, flying with flaps. Flaps are designed to do two things. First, many flap increase the surface area of the wing. And the more wing area means more lift. Okay. The area and lift increase. Second, they change the shape of the wing. As the flaps angle downward, the wing's so-called camber, right, camber, increases, which causes a greater deflection of the airflow for a given nose pitch attitude. The result is a significant increase in lift. So if we have a look, camber without flaps, see the line just going pretty much straight ahead? And then we have the yellow line, camber with flaps. See the way it's completely changed that shape of the wing? All right. But if flaps help generate more lift, why not use them all the time? Good question. Well, the catch is flaps also create more drag. And as we've been learning from each and every lesson, for every one action we do, there is a reaction. So we need to watch for that. It means that we need to add more power and slightly lower the nose to maintain level flight when your flaps are extended. It's also important to remember that flaps have operational limits, and exceeding them at too high a speed can cause structural damage. So as we're flying along in our plane, when you want to deploy flaps, what happens? You're flying along and you extend the flaps one notch. What happens in your airplane? What do we always have to do when we throw down the flaps? What happens? Pinky is here. Good to see you. Feel like you're in the classroom. So what happens to your airplane if you're flying along straight and level and now you extend the flaps? A couple of things will happen. What's the first thing it does, right? Don, pan. There's noises happening in here somewhere. Don't know what it is. There's someone in my house. I'm not alone. Send help. Trim and power down. Well, that's what we do. But what does the airplane do? As soon as you deploy flaps, right? So you're flying along, you're dropping a notch of flaps. What happens? The nose goes up, doesn't it? Why? Because you've increased the lifting capability of the wing. You've made the wing bigger. It's now creating more lift. And by doing so, as you can see from the shape of the Cessna, it's going to pitch that nose upwards. Okay. What happens then if we retract the flaps? Let's just say we've taken off, we're at a nice climb, and we're going to retract the flaps, usually after 300 feet. That's usually what happens in general aviation. Once you get to 300 feet, flaps in. What happens? The nose drops, correct? So now that we know, okay, if we use these secondary control forces, right, flaps down is going to pitch our nose up, flaps up is going to pitch our nose down. Try and remember it that way. But every time you're going near the flap handle, if the flaps are coming up, your nose will go down. If your flaps are going to go down, your nose is going to go up. So as a pilot, you need to counter that or prepare for that. Yeah? Right. So the catch is it creates more drag. And you have to be careful because you have structural limits of your flaps. Thankfully, these are indicated on your airspeed indicator. They're going to show you an arc, a line in which it is safe to deploy maximum flaps within this airspeed curve. Yeah, it'll show you that on the aircraft. I haven't come across an aircraft that doesn't show that. It's also going to be in the POH, but the aircraft will show you this is the safe well, actually, Boeing aircraft, if you're flying an airliner, it may not show you that particular arc, but it will show it. Your barber tape will drop if you're slightly over speed. You know what I mean? Anyway, this is showing you the increased drag because you've effectively put a massive, airflow deflector in the way of the wind. So today's video, in the lesson, we're going to learn how to enter and exit slow flight, both with and without flaps, and how to transition between these configurations. You'll also gain a clear understanding of your flaps' operational limits and how to manage the extra drag they introduce. Are we ready? So we'll click in on this and have an Cockpit video. I'll stop it and go through it a couple of times. We're going to have questions. If you do have questions, lads, there is only one dumb question. That is the question you don't ask. So don't ever worry about the questions you ask. If for whatever reason, if you don't understand it, just ask the question. Do not assume someone else will. Trust me, just ask the question. If it's not 100% clear to you, just ask, right? Right, are we ready? We'll do one of these and see what happens.
The final piece of your initial flight training journey is approaching the traffic pattern. But performing landings requires us to master attaining specific low speeds, and this makes it vital for us to be able to control the airspeed accurately. Also, on the Cessna, you'll want to make sure you use the flaps to further reduce your landing speed. But flying with the flaps down induces some new control challenges. So it's time for us to practice slow flight with and without flaps. And we do love a challenge, don't we? So let's go discover how this is done. This is Navigraph Academy, where we teach you how to fly realistically, accurately, and safely with our modern flight simulators. In today's lesson, we will explore slow speed flying, a challenging exercise that will hone your core flying skills. We will begin by rehearsing some of the level flight theory that we have covered in our previous lessons. And this will enable us to understand how we maintain altitude when we reduce our airspeed to a slow flight. After this, Jason will show you how to enter the slow flight in the aircraft. There will be a specific focus on how to correct for deviations in altitude and in airspeed, and you will quickly learn a lot about the relationship between pitch and power. This will be very useful knowledge for your coming lesson, where we will have to use the same corrections while flying in the traffic pattern. Once we've mastered slow flight in non-configured states, we will move on to studying our flaps. We'll first be discussing the aerodynamics and the operation of the flaps, and then Jason will show you how to extend them in the plane while you are maintaining airspeed and altitude. The goal of this lesson is to make you comfortable with operating the airplane at slow speeds and while extending or retracting the flaps. which are all vital skills before we start practicing our takeoff and landings. Let us quickly rehearse the balance of forces acting on the airplane in level flight. Flying in cruise, we find that the lift force exactly equals the weight of the aircraft. And lift is primarily a product of two factors that we as pilots can change, those being airspeed and angle of attack. Let us now consider what will happen to the altitude when we enter a slow flight. As we reduce our airspeed, we will begin to lose lifting force. Doing nothing, we would start descending.
Now, can anyone remember from last week and the week before, if we were to reduce our airspeed, i.e. we reduce our power, what happens? What do we have to do to counter this? Can you remember? Specifically flying in the Cessna 172, and I'll give you a hint. We'll talk about slipstream. It's called a slipstream. So what will happen if we reduce the power of the aircraft? Apart from, we'll nose down in the speed. What else will happen? Can anyone remember? Mr. Minimite says it's a £30 upgrade update for the PMDG. Oof. Blitz, you're very welcome aboard. So can anyone remember that from last week, the week before? As we reduce power of the aircraft or increase power of it, think of the slipstream. Apart from the nose up, nose down, what else is liable to happen? Nerf has it. We lose lift, but also we will induce a yaw motion, right? So if we reduce power, what the aircraft is liable to do, right, it's going to start pointing the nose left, and to counter that, we'll have to apply a bit of rudder. If we increase power, it'll slightly yaw to the right, in which we would have to put in a bit of right rudder. So try and remember of all the lessons we've done. As we're learning new things, it's important to retain the information that we've learned already, because as we're flying, we've reduced power, right? There's more forces acting on the airplane than just the pitch. There's far more. There's vertical stuff as well as longitudinal. So we need to watch out for those things. All right, good stuff.
However, we can compensate by increasing our angle of attack. But as we learned in our previous lesson, increasing our angle of attack too much could lead to a stall. The trick lies in stabilizing our airspeed at a low but a non-stalled airspeed, where we'll find ourselves cruising at a stable, slower speed. This slow flight condition would be flown in level flight, but with a higher than normal angle of attack. Thus, to reduce speed from cruise speed to slow flight, we would first decrease our power. As the airspeed reduces, we slowly and continually increase the pitch attitude, ensuring that we do not lose any altitude as the speed trickles back. As we approach the target airspeed, we stop any further reduction in airspeed by adjusting our power. Remember, the aircraft will stabilize at an airspeed where the power perfectly balances the drag, so a small adjustment may be necessary at this stage.
As Martin says, reducing speed from cruise to slow flight is primarily an exercise in pitch and power control. Let me show you how it's done. Here we are in level cruise flight. As you can see, I'm flying close to normal cruising speed with an RPM setting of 2300. My altitude is 4,000 feet. My pitch attitude is at the familiar level flight position, the same one we've covered in previous videos. Before we start reducing speed, it's important to check that we are fully trimmed for level flight. Starting the exercise with a stable, trimmed aircraft will make it easier to accurately pitch for a new airspeed. All right, I'm trimmed. Let's start. First, I look straight ahead. Let's find a landmark out there. I reduce our power. Let's put it about 1800 RPM for now, aiming for 65 knots. Reduced power means reduced slipstream. Therefore, I make sure that our nose does not yaw by watching our landmark. You'll notice that the airspeed will start to decrease. To counteract the result of loss of lift, we'll start to increase our pitch attitude. As you can see, the distance between the nose cowling and the horizon will start to narrow. I use small inputs and trim as we continue to pitch up. To check if my pitch up rate is sufficient, A small glance down on the altimeter in the VSI shows me I'm still stable at 4,000 feet. Great. You'll notice that the RPM has decreased. This is because when airspeed is reduced, the propeller RPM drops due to the slower airflow while you're crossing. As I approach our target airspeed of 65 knots, I now recover 1800 RPM as the final power setting. And we find that airspeed starts to stabilize at our target speed. If it had not, we would add more power to stop a further reduction in airspeed, or use less power to arrest an increase in airspeed. Since we are stable at the new speed, I will make sure to stabilize our pitch attitude by using more trim. We always want to be fully trimmed. In this lower speed range, we'll find that our control inputs are sluggish and less responsive. The lessened airflow over the control surfaces leads to a reduced aerodynamic force, requiring larger inputs to achieve the same rate of movement compared to what we are used to. Also, in slow flight, we try to avoid using more than 15 degrees of bank angle while turning. Remember that we've talked about that before. Turns require us to extract more lift from the wings. We do this by pitching up slightly and by raising the angle of attack. But in a slow flight condition, we're already closer to the stalling angle of attack of the wing. Excessive bank angles may require pitch-up movement large enough to induce a stall. It may prove difficult to maintain altitude in any steeper turn, as we are already suffering from the lessened lift capacity of the lower airspeed. Let us return to level flight, and I will demonstrate how to recover from the slow flight condition. Here we are, we're wings level again. In preparation for increasing my power and airspeed, I recall that I'm trimmed significantly nose up. Do you remember what will happen to our pitch moment when I increase our power, as discussed in one of our previous videos? Due to the prop wash hitting the stabilizer, we'll find that as we increase power, the aircraft will want to pitch further up. Thus, in preparing for adding power, we must anticipate a large nose up movement. Okay, we're ready. Preparing to exit the slow flight, I'll look straight ahead and find a new landmark. I add full power, adding rudder as I do this. I feel a strong nose up movement. I counter with a forward pitch force. I slowly pitch down to normal cruise speed, level flight attitude. I trim as necessary. As airspeed approaches 105 knots, I reduce our power to 2300 RPM. I trim again, making sure we're stable in cruise flight. Great. And that's how we enter and recover from slow flight.
Jason did a great job with that slow flight. But not always do we find ourselves flying so accurately that airspeed and altitude are perfectly constant throughout the maneuver. During slow flight and in the traffic pattern, you will often need to correct for changes in altitude and airspeed. But altitude and airspeed interact, and they are also products of both pitch attitude and power. So therefore, we must learn to master the so-called pitch and power corrections. First, let me explain how these forces interact, and then Jason will show you how pitch and power corrections are done in the plane. We've already established that for a given airspeed, a specific nose attitude corresponds to the lifting force required to exactly match the weight of the aircraft. At the same time, the airspeed in level flight is directly linked to the power setting. Let us therefore consider a few different scenarios where the aircraft is deviating from this equilibrium. First, here we have an aircraft that is flying at the target airspeed, but it is descending. In this scenario, we can see that too little lift is being generated. Since we are flying at the targeted airspeed, we cannot simply increase our pitch attitude to regain more lift, as this would increase drag and thus decrease our airspeed. The solution lies in both increasing our pitch attitude and increasing our power slightly. The pitch-up movement arrests the descent, while the power increase ensures that our airspeed stays constant. All forces are once again in equilibrium. The amount of pitch and power required to achieve the desired reaction depends on the airspeed as well as the descent rate, and is something you will get a feel for with some experience. Here we have a second scenario. The aircraft is flying too fast, but it is maintaining altitude. Our target slow flight speed was 65 knots, but instead we find ourselves flying at 75 knots. In this situation, the lift exactly equals the weight and the plane is in equilibrium. So to reduce the speed, we must further decrease the power while we maintain the lifting force. To do this, we reduce power slightly, and as airspeed trickles back, we pitch up to maintain lift force. Again, we have corrected by using a combination of pitch and power changes. Here is a last scenario. Let us consider an aircraft that is climbing and maintaining too low of an airspeed. We find ourselves flying at 55 knots, but our target airspeed was 65 knots. The aircraft is also climbing with a vertical speed of 300 feet per minute. In this situation, the lift force exceeds the weight of the aircraft, and at the same time, we have allowed our airspeed to decay too much. So here, we can trade our excess vertical speed for an increase in airspeed. As we pitch down to a lower angle of attack, this will immediately reduce our lifting force, nullifying our climb. Also, the lower pitch attitude means the airspeed can once again increase. So here, we did not have to perform any power changes, as we could simply trade our excess vertical speed for forward speed.
As Martin makes clear, corrections to altitude or airspeed must often include a coordination of both power and pitch, but not always. I find it easy to remember that each power and pitch combination corresponds to a specific airspeed and vertical speed. Make changes to either power or pitch, and you'll have to change the other to maintain airspeed or altitude. Let me give you two examples of how this looks in the aircraft. Here we are in slow flight. My target airspeed is 65 knots and I'm maintaining it perfectly. However, as you can see here, I'm descending slightly. This indicates to me that I need to pitch up. However, I remember that any pitch up movement also causes the airspeed to decay. I will need to counter this with a touch of power. All right, here we go. Slight pitch up, slight power increase. I let the aircraft stabilize at its new equilibrium. We can see that I'm now maintaining altitude and that the airspeed is still spot on at 65 knots. Great. However, I have descended below our target altitude of 4,000 feet. Let's climb back up while maintaining 65 knots. Remembering that I must increase lift in order to climb, I understand that I must increase my pitch. However, doing this alone would cause our airspeed to decay. Again, I will perform the same coordinated pitch and power change. We pitch slightly up and increase our power slightly, like this. As you can see, we're now in a straight climb maintaining 65 knots. Once we are back at our initial altitude, we can stabilize again by reducing power and pitch slightly.
Now, just on that, this sort of lesson or this sort of maneuver, if you like, this is very important to try as often as you can. As I say, like, if you want to learn how the airplane really flies, fly it at its slowest possible speed. But this sort of stuff where you're, aiming for that 65 knots in a Cessna, you will start feeling the controls get way more kind of soupy and harder to respond to. It's great for training, and it's making you kind of muscle memory very aware of your airspeed and also your vertical speed, your VSI, your vertical speed indicator, which is shown just slightly off your main altitude. So it's going to be either plus or a minus figure. If you're on like an analog dial, you'll have its own VSI. It'll show you you're either climbing or you're descending based on number of feet per minute. All right. So in any aircraft, this sort of flying, it really does pay dividend, learning and understanding where the flight model is. Do you know? Sim Guy is here. Good to see you. Monty, a very good day to you, sir. And Bell Bro, welcome aboard, lads. Hope you're all keeping well. We're halfway through this, and we'll stay going.
We now know how to enter and exit slow flight and how to correct for deviations in altitude and in airspeed. So let us move into another exciting area of practice, which is using the flaps of the Cessna. The flaps on the Cessna 172 are located on the trailing edge of both wings, between the fuselage and the ailerons. The flaps are connected mechanically, and they are extended electrically by a single flap motor located inside the right wing. The flaps alter the shape and the area of the wing. And for example, on the Cessna, flap extension increases the total wing area by the flap sliding rearwards. Since this effectively increases the area of the lift-producing surface, we get an instant increase in lift. The flaps on the Cessna also angle downwards, so looking at the wing's profile, we can see that the flap extension increases the curvature of the wing. And this curve angle is called the wing's camber.
So with the camber, I just want to show you this briefly because on different aircraft, they have different flap configurations, all right? So just to give you an idea, this is your basic wing section looking at it from the side, right? You'd have what's called a slotted flap, something like the Kodiak, I think, has those. A plain flap, that's what we're working off here with our Cessna. That's just a plain flap. It's the style of flap, right? Then you have a Fowler flap, whereby the flap will extend down and out, right? Behind me face, you have the split flap, which you'll see it on a lot of the old warbirds. You know, the wing will stay perfectly as it is, but just a section of the wing or the flap drops down. That's called a split flap. And then you have what's called a slotted Fowler flap, where you have different mechanics moving, whereby you have a curve and then you have the main flap that goes down as well. All right. So there are all different flap settings or flap styles, if you like, on different aircraft. But just to be aware of them, with the Cessna that we're using, it is that of the plain flap, and they're controlled mechanically. There's a motor for those. Electronically, sorry, you have a little motor for that, right? If you were flying, for example, in a PA-28 or the Comanche, right? The Comanche, they're all mechanical. Basically, you have what looks like a car handbrake, right? And it's using cables and pulleys. That's what operates your flaps on a lot of the Piper aircraft. With our Cessna 172, we have a nice little switch. We press it down and the flaps travel, or they transition, flaps in transit. That's what you'll hear. And, you know, when you're flying, you'll be counting the transition, right? Some aircraft might have the indicator, some mightn't, some work, some don't work. Should usually take about 3-4 seconds for each setting of the flaps. 10 degrees, 20 degrees, whatever it's going to be. All right. So just to be aware that there are, depending on the aircraft manufacturer, there are different designs when it comes to this lifting equipment, which are flaps, right? Then you have flapperons, then there's all different sorts of stuff. But just to be aware of it, it's kind of nice to know. The split flap is what the Cessna 172 has. All right. So let's continue on.
Increasing camber will give rise to more lift, as the increased camber induces an increased deflection of the airflow. And in practice, this means we can extract more lift for a given pitch attitude. And here's the crucial part. Remember that lift must counter weight for an aircraft to remain aloft. So as we decrease the speed, we have learned that to maintain constant lift, we have to increase the pitch attitude and thus the angle of attack of the wing. However, if we consider the same situation as before, where lift is too low to maintain altitude, then if we extend the flaps, we find that for a given angle of attack and no pitch change, we will still generate more lift compared to the no flap configuration. And since a more cambered wing produces more lift at any angle of attack, the wing can generate the necessary lift at an even lower airspeed than with a flatter and less cambered airfoil. The flaps has thus lowered our minimum speed, which is known as the stall speed. A lower stall speed is highly desirable in landing and also to some extent in takeoff, where we want to be on the ground for as little time as possible, reducing our landing and takeoff distances. The downside of the flaps is that they also cause drag. So flying with flaps extended in cruise would cause a very high amount of drag, generating a very high fuel consumption. On the Cessna, the flap mechanism itself can also be damaged by high airspeeds. For example, by high loads transferred onto the flap rails, as shown here. This means that we must consider the maximum flap extended speed, which is called the VFE speed when we fly. On the Cessna, two VFE speeds exist. For flaps with up to 10 degrees of flaps, the maximum speed is 110 knots indicated. For any further increase in flap setting, we must be below 85 knots indicated to safely operate the flaps. Note that the Cessna 172 normally has 3 distinct flap detents, one for 10, 20, and 30 degrees of flaps, with 30 degrees being the full flap setting.
Right, so before we continue, let's have a look at the flap mechanism of a real-life Cessna. As you recently heard, the Cessna 172 flap is operated by an electrical motor, and this motor sits on the right-hand side of the wing, and it's located just above this part of the underside of the wing. And as we operate the flaps, we can actually hear the motor distinctly spinning. Now, a fun bit of trivia. The electrical cables used by the flap motor may have deteriorated on some older planes. And on some Cessnas, the magnetic interference caused by the cables can actually induce a static buzz inside the radio or the intercom. As the motor actuates the flaps, they move on these rails, extending down and back. This type of flap, which moves both aft and angled downwards, is called a Fowler flap.
Haha! So it's not me playing, it's a Fowler. There was me looking at it going, Murph, are you sure about this? So, on up here again. Fowler flap. That's what we have in the Cessna, not a plane. Oops! It's a Fowler flap. What is it? It's a Fowler flap. Captain McCoy says, is there part 1, 2, and 3 to find and look? Yeah, they're all on YouTube, buddy. They're all on YouTube. The Fowler flap. I'm trying to think. The plane flap is what you'd have in your Piper, in your PA-28. Right? In a box, man, good to see you. Max Stallion, good to see you. Hope you're well. So if I were to show you, let's say a PA-28. Something like a Warrior. Now we have a look. Bum, 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 bum. So your PA-28 uses the plane flap, all right? I want to show you a picture of it. Of a one where it's extended. That might do the job. It's just to give you an idea, right? So on your PA-28, for example, that's it pretty much there. You have your flap linkage, and then it literally, if it's on the wing like that, it drops down. With the Cessna, it's a Fowler. It extends and drops down. That makes sense? It moves out and down. So with your PA-28s, it's just a straight, like a hinge almost, all right? So just to clarify that, the Cessna uses a Fowler flap and not like what this just said, plane flap. Plane flap is more what you'd find on the Arrow or the Warrior, mainly the Warrior, PA-28. All right? Are we happy enough? No? Grand.
The Cessna Fowler flap also creates a small opening called a slot that allows air from the underside of the wing to take a little shortcut to the upper side of the wing. You can see the slot from this angle. The air on the underside of the wing is energetic, and this helps prevent the air from separating from the upper surface, delaying the stall to a higher angle of attack. The flap lever inside the cockpit sits at the right side of the cabin. Martin mentioned that the flap lever has 3 detents. You can see these detents here. Just note that the lever itself does not actually have detents. As I move the flap lever up and down, note the small knob sticking out of the gap moving. This indicates the actual flap position on the wings. And as you can see here, the flap extension selector is actually stepless. I can select any position throughout the flap range, and the flaps will stop at the intermediate position. The detents that Martin and Jason refer to are simply the physical stops or steps visible here inside the gap. Moving the lever inside the real plane, you can actually feel the gap lever hitting these detents as they provide some resistance to travel. Inside Microsoft Flight Simulator, increasing the flap by an increment of 1, as shown by this keybind, would increase the flap by 1 detent. But in the simulator, it can sometimes be difficult to remember how many detents you've selected, as you're not physically feeling or seeing the flap lever. Visually looking over at the small flap lever in the virtual cockpit is not a good procedure, as this distracts you from keeping your eyes on the nose attitude and on your instruments. The best way to set up your controls would therefore be to have the flaps on a sliding axis,
where you can physically feel the position of the flaps. If this isn't possible with your setup, you should consider binding these 4 keybinds to the distinct flap detents. This way, you'll always know which flap angle you're selecting. Remember to also bind the keybind for flap 0, so that you're able to retract the flaps as well.
Alright, with all of that knowledge, let us now move on to explaining how the flaps alter the aerodynamic balance of the aircraft, and what control forces you will experience as you extend them. Consider this aircraft in a stable, slow flight condition. All forces are in equilibrium. As we extend the flaps, the wing area and the camber of the wing increases. This generates an instant increase in lift force. If we maintained a constant pitch attitude, we would find that the aircraft would begin to climb. However, remember that by increasing the flap angle, we've also increased the drag force. And left unattended, the aircraft would begin to slow down. Third, we discovered that increasing the flap angle generates a nose-up movement. The reason for this has to do with the flaps altering the airflow over the stabilizer at the back of the aircraft. Looking closer at the wing and the stabilizer, we can see that the airflow from the flaps is angled further downwards in the direction of the stabilizer. This creates more airflow over the tail, which in turn generates an increase in the negative lift produced by the stabilizer. With a stronger tailplane force pushing the tail down, we will encounter a stronger rotational force tending to push the nose up. So now we can see that left unchallenged, flap extension would cause 3 things. 1. An increase in lift, causing the aircraft to climb. 2. An increase in drag, causing the aircraft to slow down. And 3. A nose-up tendency. To effectively maintain slow flight at a given airspeed and at a given altitude, we must counter these forces. So let's go to Jason, who will explain and show you how this is done.
Here we are in slow flight. I'm maintaining 65 knots indicated and my flaps are up. This is called the clean configuration as opposed to the dirty flaps extended configuration. I'm fully trimmed and feeling confident that my plane is stable in its slow flight condition. Before I extend the flaps, let us go through what we'll do first. First, I will extend the flaps in 3 distinct steps, going from 10, then to 20, and last to 30 degrees of flaps. I will pause and stabilize the aircraft between each flap step. The goal is to maintain altitude and airspeed throughout the flap extension steps. With every step, I'll have to do 2 things simultaneously. 1, add a bit of power to counteract the increasing drag. And 2, pitch down to compensate for the increased lift on the wings. Let me show you how this is done. I add 10 degrees of flaps. As I do this, I add some power and pitch down. I remember to trim to remove any required pitch input. As I glance down on my instruments, as you can see, we're maintaining airspeed and altitude. It's time for the next flap step. I extend 20 degrees of flaps. I add more power. I pitch down and add some more trim to neutralize the pitch input. Again, a quick scan down on the instruments. As you can see, I'm slightly low on speed. Drag is causing us to slow down. I need to add a bit more power. There we go. My airspeed is back. Time for the last flap step. Down to 30 degrees. There we go. I add more power, some more pitch down, and some trim. I check our instruments, all stable. Great. We are now stabilized in a fully configured or dirty slow flight condition. This is very similar to the airspeed and configuration we'll experience on final approach as we enter the traffic pattern on the next lesson. The next step is to recover from the slow flight condition, which we will do at full power. We have to be careful not to overspeed the flaps, and we have to understand that the aircraft will tend to pitch down as we retract the flaps. Let me show you the proper procedure. I focus on our landmark straight ahead. Then I will slowly add power up to full and maintain attitude for level flight. I need a lot of pitch down force here. Once our power is at full, I immediately retract the flaps by 1 step. Check our airspeed. It's increasing, so I go up to 10 degrees flaps. I maintain pitch and trim. As airspeed climbs above 80 knots, I retract the flaps fully. Again, I maintain pitch and use our trim as necessary. As airspeed approaches our cruise speed of 105 knots, I reduce power to 2300 RPM and regain level flight. Piece of cake.
A few final notes on the airspeeds associated with flight with flaps. The airspeed indicator has markings for one of the VFE speeds of the Cessna. The top of the white pole marks the VFE speed for landing configuration. And for the Cessna, this aligns with the maximum airspeed for all flap configurations in excess of 10 degrees. As you can see, the top of the white pole is at 85 knots. Be aware that the VFE speed for flaps of 10 degrees or less is not visible on the airspeed indicator. You will recall that this is 110 knots, and we must learn this limitation by heart. At the bottom end of the airspeed range, we find the bottom of the white pole. This marks the stalling speed with flaps in landing configuration. And this airspeed is called the VSO. This is sometimes called the dirty or the fully dirty stall speed. And a good way to remember what VSO denotes is to see it as velocity, stuff out. And the stuff there being the flaps that are now extended fully. As this
Just to give you an idea, so if you were using a steam gauged Cessna 172, this is what your airspeed indicator would look like. And what we can see from here is, instead of the bar going all the way up, it's on the outside of our analog gauge, but we can see similar markings. We have our VSO, right? And we also have our VFE. So we can see the white bar showing us that at this 85 knots, this is when we can go into a full flap configuration at speeds at 85 knots or below. At the 110 knot speed, this is when we can safely introduce 10 degrees of flap at 110 knots or below. But again, it's not shown, right? So just to be aware of that, if you're flying this with an analog gauge, right, a steam gauge, which are king, you'll have the same crack again when it comes to your airspeed indicator, knowing that this is the speed in which I can go full configuration for flaps. This will vary from aircraft to aircraft, but by and large, once you see the white bar, it's usually a good indication for your flap speed. You should be able to go fully configured within this arc, if that makes sense. Sunjammer, good to see you, bud. Hope you're well. So hope that makes sense to you. As we continue on, we're nearly there, lads.
Discussed in our previous lesson on stall, we can also see that the stall speed for the clean configuration is shown on the airspeed indicator. This is the bottom of the green band. Note how VSO is slightly less than the bottom of the green band, reflecting the fact that flaps will lower the stalling speed of the aircraft. We've now covered how to enter and recover from slow flight, with and without flaps. Slow flight truly is a test of finesse, and the lesson is widely regarded as one of the best precision exercises. So do you have what it takes to maintain perfect speed and altitude control? Well, you can go find out right now inside Microsoft Flight Simulator. And as always, you are welcome at the Navigraph Academy website, where you can find all of our training material, including an easy way to access the in-game training sessions. Also, if you do enjoy our training videos and appreciate our efforts to support the ever-growing virtual flying community, please consider subscribing to our channel. By doing so, you will directly contribute to the future of our educational content right here on YouTube.
No pressure at all. Right, so we have an idea of what we're going to be doing, right? So the video review, we've now gained valuable experience in slow flight and flap configuration. It's time to review the key procedures and concepts to make sure you're fully prepared for practical application. One important takeaway is that slow flight is, by definition, flown close to stall speed. Making abrupt maneuvers in this state can cause the airflow to separate from the wings and lead to a stall. So it's important to handle the controls gently. In turns, the margin to stall speed is even smaller, so bank angles must be kept shallow. Very easy, slight movements. Maximum of about 15 degrees is a good guideline. You remember when we were doing our fast speeds last week, they were giving us up to 30 degrees in a bank angle. In aviation, we often talk about different aircraft configurations. A configuration simply describes the state of the aircraft's flaps and its landing gear. Since the Cessna 172 doesn't have retractable gear, it's fixed, in our case we refer only to the flap positions. Therefore, a clean configuration means that the flaps are fully retracted or they're up. A dirty configuration means that the flaps are extended to some setting. Even if it's 10 degrees, you're in a dirty configuration. It doesn't matter if the setting is 10 or 30 degrees. In a dirty configuration, airspeed must always be monitored carefully to avoid overstressing the flaps. Again, there are some aircraft in Microsoft Flight Sim, the Accusyn Comanche, one of them, the Aerostar as well. If you exceed the maximum speed for flap deployment, you can break the flap. It'll lock, it'll jam, the mechanism will fail, and you could be stuck with the flap up or indeed with the flap down. Even one of them. You can fail just one flap. Can you imagine if you have one flap deployed, the other is sitting up? Can you imagine what that does to the control of the aircraft? So you need to watch for these, right? Now, as we rehearse, as we continue practicing in the aircraft, these speeds will become natural parts of your procedures. Try not to be overwhelmed by them. Just focus on understanding what they mean and commit to the unmarked ones to memory, i.e. our 110. VFE, which is our flap extension speed, the maximum speed at which you can safely extend the flaps without overstressing the structure. The 172 has two limits. Up to 10 degrees flap deflection, our VFE is 110 knots. We need to remember 110 for the first notch of flaps. Fair enough. For flap settings beyond 10 degrees, our VFE is 85 knots. Note that the 110 knot limit is not marked on our airspeed indicator, while the 85 knot limit corresponds to the top of the white arc. Martin K, good to see you, buddy. Our VSO, or stall speed with dirty configuration, that's the stall speed of the aircraft with the flaps extended in its landing configuration, meaning instead of stalling at 54 knots with the flaps extended, our new stall speed would be probably 47 knots, something like this. It's on your airspeed indicator, and you also have the stall warning signs there as well. All right. Simming Sav, thank you very much indeed. What a legend. 7 months, buddy. Cheers, man. Then we have our VS1. That's your stall speed in a clean configuration. The stall speed of the aircraft when your flaps are retracted, i.e. the flaps are up. That's your normal stall speed. All right. Simming Sav, great to see you, buddy. You're very welcome in. Understanding and memorizing these speeds will ensure you can operate the aircraft safely within its performance limits. So remember, 110 knots for the first 10 degrees of flaps. So 110 knots or below, you're good for the first notch of flaps. 85 knots or below, you're good for a full configuration. That could be 20 or 30. All right. So you could go 30 degrees of flaps at 85 knots and below. All right. Entry and recovery procedure. Let's also rehearse how to properly enter slow flight and how to recover back to normal flight conditions. Slow flight entry procedure. We're going to reduce thrust, gradually reducing the engine power towards idle. We need to maintain our altitude. To do that, we're going to raise the nose to maintain altitude as our airspeed decreases. Then we need to stabilize ourselves in this new slow flight. Once we reach the target slow flight speed, in this case it will be 65 knots, but we need to increase our power roughly to about 1800 RPM in order to maintain both our altitude and our speed. Nice. The flap extension. We're going to check our airspeed, confirm that we are below VFE before extending our flaps, and we're going to do this in stages. We're going to extend the flaps first by going 10 degrees, then we adjust for pitch and power, 20 degrees, and then 30 degrees. With each step, we add power and a little nose slightly to counter drag and maintain altitude. We also need to retrim the aircraft. Flap extension changes the downwash over the tail, often causing the nose to rise. The below image will retrim us. All right. Now, recovery from a slow flight in a clean configuration, remember that's with no flaps, what we need to do is apply full power, keep the wings level using coordinated aileron input, right, and rudder input. We need to counteract the yaw. As we increase the power, the yaw tendency will want to move us to the right, so we need to be ready on our controls to expect what's going to happen. We need to stabilize ourselves at cruise speed, reducing the power to our cruise setting, aiming for about 105 knots. Then we retrim the aircraft. Trim is so vitally important in any aircraft that you're flying. A lot of new folks to flight simulation find it quite difficult trying to keep the plane or helicopter in level flight, and it's because they haven't figured out, wait, I got to trim the controls here. Every time you adjust the attitude or your power, you need to readjust your trim. Your aircraft is trimmed for a specific power setting and speed. All right, so you need to watch for that. Recovery from slow flight in a dirty configuration, i.e. our flaps are down or extended, we will apply full power, add power to regain our airspeed, keep the wings level, counteract any yaw that's coming in from your wings. We're going to retract the flaps to 20 degrees, retract as soon as possible to reduce your drag. Then we retract them to 10 degrees, ensure the airspeed is increasing before retracting any further, and then retract fully only after our airspeed goes above 80 knots, but don't let it go above 85. We then level off at cruise speed, reducing the power back to about 105 knots, and we retrim the aircraft. All right. So a couple of questions. In slow flight, you are at the target airspeed of 65 knots, but you notice a 200 feet per minute descend. What's the correct correction? How do we fix this? In slow flight, we're at 65 knots, but we're losing altitude. What do we need to do? Do we increase the pitch slightly and add a small bit of power? Do we add power only? Do we raise the pitch only? Or do we lower the pitch and reduce power? So we want to maintain level flight here. So our target speed is good, but we're losing altitude. Right? Briggsy, good to see you, buddy. They're not happy. They said they were shaking from the bass in my speakers. Nice. So if you increase pitch slightly and add a small bit of power, so you're 65 knots, right? You're currently at 65 knots, but you're losing altitude, all right? If you increase power, right? What's going to happen if you increase power? It should, by definition, it should make the aircraft nose increase a little bit, so it'll raise the nose, yeah? So what do we go for? Do we add power or do we increase pitch slightly and add power? Martin reckons power only. Anyone counter that, or are we happy with that? So, you know, like as we add power, we're flying, we add power, the tendency that nose wants to lift a little bit. If it lifts, we're increasing our lift. That should negate any sort of vertical speed or neutralize the vertical speed. If we were to go add power only, power alone will arrest the descent slowly, but it'll raise the airspeed above the target, right? What if we increase the pitch slightly and add a small bit of power? If we were to raise the pitch only, so we're descending, we're shallowing out at 200 feet a minute. If we were to pull back on the stick and increase our pitch, we'll stabilize our vertical speed, but with a good chance now we're going to reduce our forward momentum speed. So if we increase the pitch slightly and add a tiny bit of power, let's see what that one does. Correct. Do you know what I mean? So Martin, if you were to add power only, yes, you would get the tendency that the nose will come up, right? But for that 200 feet, you're going to start gaining airspeed. You know what I mean? Mutley, good to see you. All right, what about extending flaps in slow flight? Extending flaps in slow flight primarily requires which immediate control response? Extending the flaps. So as we lower the flaps, what happens? Do we pitch down and apply left aileron? Do we maintain power and pitch and rely on trim to fix things? Do we reduce the power and pitch up, then retrim? Or do we increase the power and pitch down slightly and then retrim? Remember, we are extending the flaps in a slow flight. What happens when we put the flaps down? It increases drag. It'll also make the aircraft pitch up and we'll start gaining altitude. So to counter all of that, what if we reduce the power, pitch up and retrim? Or if we increase the power, pitch down slightly and then retrim? More power, nose down and retrim. I would go with Malky on this. Correct. Right? So you're flying in slow flight. You've now extended the flaps. When you extend the flaps, the nose will want to drop, but you've also increased your drag. Make sense? I once had to trim to jam in the takeoff climb position. Really hard to keep the plane in level flight at cruise, so we had to divert back to base. Ooh, ouch. Regarding VFE and markings on the 172, which statement is correct? VFE for any flap setting is shown at the top of the white arc, i.e. 110 knots. VFE has one value, 85 knots for all flap positions. VFE is 110 knots up to 10 degrees flaps, and 85 knots beyond 10. Or VFE is the clean configuration stall speed at the bottom of the green arc. Which one do we think? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Regarding VFE and markings, specifically to the 172, which statement is correct? Is it VFE for any flap setting is shown at the top of the white arc? Is it number 2, VFE has one value, 85 knots? Is it 3, VFE is 110 knots up to 10 degrees flaps, and then 85 knots or below for anything else? Or VFE is at the clean configuration stall speed at the bottom of the green arc? Well, think about it, right? So remember, on our Cessna 172, when we look at the VFE, we know we've been told there's no indication for the first 10 degrees of flaps. We need to memorize that. Therefore, we need to remember 110 knots or below, we can use 10 degrees flaps. Remember that one. Then, if we want to go fully configured, either 20 or 30 degrees, it doesn't matter. We now have a white arc that will signal that. That white arc starts at 85 knots and below. So the answer is the third one. VFE is at 110 up to 10 degrees of flap, and 85 knots and beyond for additional 85 knots and below for 10 degrees or more. All right? Are we happy enough? Right. Go to the briefing. Here we go. Quick video on what we're doing.
It's time for some precision flying. Slow flight. First, go to the Activities tab, then scroll to the right and click Custom Content. Access Lesson 6 and get going. You'll find yourself in the air once again. First priority is to trim for level flight. Once stable, it's time to enter a slow flight without flaps. Reduce power and let the airspeed reduce. Your goal is to target 65 knots while maintaining altitude and heading. Try a left turn. Target 15 degrees of bank. Then try a right turn. Once you are done, recover normal flight. Next up is slow flight with flaps. Enter slow flight again. Once stable at 65 knots, extend your flaps in steps. You will need to maintain speed, altitude, and heading while flaps are extended. Now do turns with flaps as well, both left and right. Finally, recover normal cruise flight again, retracting flaps as you do. After this, either keep practicing or quit the lesson. Once you do, you'll find your results on the Academy website within minutes. Enjoy this precision exercise. Good luck.
So there's a bit to this. We're going to go first. Our goal is to practice slow flight without using the flaps. Therefore, in a clean configuration, we're going to pitch up until we get to 65 knots. We're going to maintain stable slow flight for about 20 seconds. We're going to do left at least 90 degrees, but no more than 15 degrees of a bank angle. All right. Then we want to turn right by about 90 degrees at no more than 15 degrees bank angle. Then we recover. Next up, we're going to go slow flight with flaps. That's our dirty configuration, 65 knots. Remembering at each stage of deploying the flaps, we need to adjust our trim, adjust our power. We'll then do a left turn 90 degrees at no more than 15 degrees bank. Then we'll do a right turn 90 degrees at no more than 15 degrees bank. And then we recover. All right. So this is the plan. What we need to do is for straight slow flight, we need to keep the speed at 65 knots. Heading deviation should not exceed 10 degrees left or right. And altitude deviation should not exceed 50 feet in altitude. This is tough, right? 50 feet, this is tough. Turning in slow flight, speed is 65, bank angle about 15 degrees, turn should be coordinated, and altitude deviation should not exceed 50 feet. So there's quite a bit going on. Now for this, we're going to be flying at Bruce Bay in New Zealand at 4,000 feet and at 1 o'clock in daylight conditions. All right, let's see what happens to this one, friends. 50 is crazy. Yeah, it's going to be a hard one. Let me see. Jim, good to see you, buddy. I'm from Ireland. So we're going to go into activities and go over to custom content. And we'll come down here to Navigraph Academy and we're going to go for the slow flight and use of flaps. So as everything loads in here, we have a bit of work to do and we have to be as close to accurate as we can. Now, again, with everything on the Navigraph Academy, the goal isn't to try and smash it. The goal is try it, get the feedback from Navigraph to say, well, this is where things went wrong. All right. To help us in this, our trim is going to be the most important. Now, 50 feet is nothing. That's quite tight, right? But let's see how we fare out here. All right. This could be difficult. 65 knots our airspeed. Once we have everything locked in, because we're doing a much smaller bank angle, right? We're not going to 30 degrees. It should give us a little bit more control over the vertical situation. But this will not be easy. I don't think this will be easy. This is a good challenge. So as it's loading in the flight, we'll jump in and let's see how we go with this. So, slow flight clean. Left and right turn. Recover. Slow flight flaps. Left and right turn. Recover. Don't sneeze. Don't blink. Don't breathe. Right? Don't panic. Don't panic. It'll be grand. Let's see what happens. As we wait for the loading of the mission. Has anyone done this lesson so far with Navigraph Academy? Have you passed it? Do. What mode or game is this? So this is all part of the Navigraph Academy. You download, it's free. You download the course. It goes into your community folder. You're able to pick it up within Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. This is all the Navigraph stuff is for free. You register on the website. You don't need a subscription. And that's how you do the course. Check out Navigraph Academy. We're just waiting for the loading of the sim. This is going to be interesting. Saying that if your VS goes to plus or minus 100, that still gives you 30 seconds. In theory, yes. Yes, it does. Did we find a bug? I don't think so. Sometimes it just takes a minute to load. It'll get there. You're looking to get your PPL this year. Oh, nice, dude. Nice. Yeah, man, that'd be awesome. Do. All right, it's thinking about it. It's doing this with like a clear cache, so it could be under a bit of pressure. I can't actually get in and change stuff here. So can I go back? We'll try it again. Oh, the sim is having a proper moment. It's like down to 1 FPS. What the hell? Right, she's recovering. And let's try it again. Right, let's see what happens. No, I don't have a PPL. No. I started working on one. I've done ground school stuff, and then COVID hit. And then, like, it's very expensive in the real world. And in Ireland, weather is always a pain in the ass to get out flying, right? My local airfield is a grass runway, so it's not even about, okay, the clouds favour some flying. The ground has to be dry, right? Otherwise you can't take off or land. Well, you can take off, well, you can't really, depending on what you're flying. But,
Oh, Jesus.
yeah, I don't know. It's something I probably will pick up again. But flight simming, I mean, that's, I can kind of scratch the itch of aviation with flight simming, especially with courses like this. It's very interesting. Do you know? I failed a single ATPL, have to start again. Ouch. Ouch. HPLs, yeah, there's a lot of that. Am I near Navan? No, down in Tipperary. Interesting. She doesn't want to load. Do. I feel like I turn money into exhaust fumes at the moment. Pretty much. Like, and it's expensive. Like, Fox, I don't know what the rates are over with you, man, but like here, like €230. Ouch. You know? Half an hour increments are probably the best. You know, my advice to anyone going for a PPL, go for half an hour lessons, especially starting off. Because like if you're doing an hour flight, it's like, it depends on what you're going to cover, but a lot of the time it's information overload. You know what I mean? £240 an hour. That's about like, yeah, that's about 280. Oof. Yeah, that's wild, man. That's wild. And like even with some of the standards hopping around, minimum 40 hours, which is grand, but like that's not for everyone. Some people maybe will do it in 40 hours. Like I remember like when 45 hours, minimum of 45 hours, some people could take them 55 hours. Some people take them 50 hours. Some people 45. You know, it all depends. But yeah, not ideal. Sim doesn't want to play, lads. We're gonna have to kill it. And we'll start it again. Oh wait, wished. See, you just have to threaten it. Right, now, slow and fly. Jeez, this is going to be great. Are we ready now? Let us see what happens. All right. Ready to fly? Ready to fly. Okay, so we want to get ourselves trimmed. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is reduce our speed, right? So we're going to reduce our speed to idle. And as we're doing so, we're pitching up. As the speed drops, RPM is coming down as well, reduced airflow. Easy. Easy. Bit of trim to help us out. Watch the speed. Easy now. So we want to be holding about 65 knots for about 20 seconds, yeah? Now, I'm deviating here a little bit, so let us get our altitude back up to exactly 4,000. We're 40 feet shallow here at the moment. Up the hill. Watch your speed. All right, easy now. So let's trim ourselves out. Easy, easy. All right, we're kind of trimmed. We're at 66, that'll do. And let's do a 90-degree turn. We're currently on 020. Left turn coming in, maximum 15 degrees. Small bit of rudder input. And let's see what we can do here. Speed is good. Watch the alt dropping. All right, there's 90 degrees. Let's straighten up. We're right in the limit. Get that altitude back up. Man, this is tricky. Get the altitude back up. Watch the speed. Okay, again, apply a small bit of trim. And now we're going to go right. Watch the speed. Watch your rate. There's 15 degrees. Speed's a little fast. Watch the turn. Roughly 15 degrees. Watch your rate of descent. Nose up. Watch your speed. Easy. It may not like your speed, but we'll see, right? Okay, let's level off, straighten up. Bring our power in. And we're going to go back up to cruise power. Easy now. Easy now. 50 feet is all we're allowed to play with. Small bit of trim to help us out. Alright. So same crack again, right? We're about hitting our cruise speed now. So what we're going to do, we're going to reduce our speed, hold the nose, watch that rate of descent. And as we're doing this, we're going to introduce some flaps. 65 is what we're going for once again. There's 10 degrees we can throw in now. We're going to apply a bit of power, keep us at 65, and watch our rate of descent. Okay, second notch of flaps, increase power, pitch down a little bit to counter, ease off the power or to go in 5 knots there, and then final 30 degrees flaps, pitch down, hold the speed, small bit of power, and we'll hold. Bit of trim needed. And we're not looking too bad. Okay, we're somewhat trimmed out, 65, full flaps at 4,000 feet. Now we're going to go left 90. 15 degrees max. Watch the rate of descent. Watch our speed. Easy. There's roughly 65, roughly 4,000. Oh, Lario, welcome in. Thank you very much indeed for the raid. Very good afternoon, folks. We're here doing some Navigraph Academy. Watch your speed. About 15 degrees. We probably went outside the bank. Trying to watch our altitude here. This is where it gets real tricky. Watch your speed. Watch your height. We're a little low. Get her back up. A little slow. There's 60 knots. Nose down, compensate. And let's start leveling off. And then we're going to throw this right. Easy. There's 65. Watch our height. Small bit of power. Small bit of trim. Need to get a little bit more power. Get the nose back to where it is. Easy now. Okay, 4,000. 55. And let's go right 90 degrees. So over to about 15 degrees bank angle. Watch the speed. Watch our vertical speed. Easy. About 15 degrees bank. Watch your speed once again. Roughly there. About 65 knots, 4,000 feet. Continue our turn. So far, so good. Beautiful scenery here, isn't it? Jesus. Ease off the speed a little bit. Watch our vertical speed. And we'll call that 90 degrees. Okay, we're going to level off. We're going to start increasing power. Keep the nose down. First notch of flaps coming in. Try and counter. Nose is going to want to drop. Second notch of flaps coming in. Watch that vertical speed.
Hello there.
Third notch of flaps in. Flaps are fully in. We're back to a clean configuration. Watch our vertical speed. Small bit of trim, and we're accelerating back up to our cruise speed of about 105 knots. We shall trim. Alright. Alright, that to me is fairly okay. We're going to try and just trim ourselves out here, maintain what we're doing. Yes, we're flying towards a big mountain, but don't worry about that for the moment. Alright, let's see if that worked. Kuchan, welcome in. Let's see, I was a little bit rough on some of the the turns, but we'll see how this one goes, right? Fox says, one thing I will say, I passed my 9 theory exams purely because of the sim. That's amazing, man. That's amazing. Max is here as well. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're well. Right, so let's go into Navigraph Academy. This is going to be interesting. If we fail, which I'm not too worried about, you know, if we fail, we fail. At least they're going to tell us where we failed, right? What I kind of struggled with there was the bank angle. We exceeded 15 degrees. I saw that. Our speed wasn't too bad. We were plus or minus 65. We didn't go below 65 or below 60 from what I can see, and we didn't go above 70. So we had a 5 knot deviation. Our altitude control should have been fairly okay. 50 feet is a very tight limit, but let's see what happens, right? So let's view. We passed. Excellent news. Let's go in and have a look to see what we did. Our slow flight, it's showing us information here. The heading drift, 5 degrees. That's okay. Our altitude change, 49 feet, right on that limit, like right on the limit. Our engine or energy management was good. We kept that at 65 knots. Straw Hats Ghost, welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in, buddy. And Lario, thank you so much indeed for the raid. Hope you had a great stream, and welcome in, raiders. I hope you guys are having a great day. Hold the nose, Murphy, right? Brilliant, Poseidon. Hope you're well, buddy. Hammer Nails, Mernon, good to see you, bud. Hope you're well. Okay, so the slow flight score was good. Small bit of heading drift. Our altitude change, 59 feet. One more foot and we were shagged. And then our speed control was good. Our slow flight with flaps, let's have a look. We had an 8 degree drift, which was on the limit, 48 feet, right? And then our speed management was good. Good. Slow flight number 2, 7 degrees, 21 feet. We tightened up our altitude variation, and we kept our speed at 64 knots. That was quite good. Our turns in slow speed, let's have a look. So up them. Our turns at slow speed, so our altitude change was 44 feet. Again, very close. Our max bank angle, it was happy enough, 15 degrees. We tried not to exceed it. I think I did exceed it, but however. Our speed was good, and the coordination was all right, plus or minus 14 degrees. It said aim for 90 knots, or aim for 90 degrees. We probably went slightly over, all right? The second turn wasn't bad either. Altitude change, 52 feet. Our max bank, 17 degrees, so I knew I exceeded 15 degrees. Our speed was good. And our coordination was 1 degree. Perfect. That was a 90 degree turn. Then our second batch of turns with flaps, altitude change 30 feet. It's happy out. Our maximum bank, 19 degrees. So we exceeded the 15. Our speed was very good, and our coordination was fairly bang on, 1 degree. They're not going to give out to us over that. And then our second turn to the right, altitude change 32 feet, 18 degrees of deviation of our bank angle. Again, our speed was good, and then our coordination just 10 degrees. The main thing I'm taking away from this, our altitude and speed management was good. That was relatively accurate, even though we were 49 feet at one stage. The heading drift and also our bank angle, that is where I need to focus on. So the bank, trying to keep that 15 degrees at slow flight, it's much harder. Why? You need to exert a lot more force into your controls in order to be able to pull that off. So practice is what that'll do. I've always said it, practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. Permanent, right? So that's the way you want to be looking at it. Marcel, very good day to you, sir. Hope you're well. You know, people say practice makes perfect. It doesn't. Practice makes permanent. You keep trying, keep practicing. It'll eventually just become muscle memory. You know what I mean? So that was certainly a difficult lesson for sure. Considering how tight the deviation was, we kept it fairly close, which is what you want, right? Overall, 94%. I'm delighted with that. We cut 75% or more. We were laughing. Do you know what I mean? Lario, thank you very much indeed. Sorry, Merv. It took a bit longer. The stream was good. We saw you at the Academy and there'd be a place to learn something. Brilliant. Well, the Navigraph Academy is free. So make sure you go over and register. You don't need any subscriptions. It's 100% free and you have access to the entire virtual PPL brought to us by Navigraph. Great. Brilliant. It's going to teach you an awful lot of stuff and it's fun as well. And you're learning from real life flight instructors. These are certified instructors. You're learning from them. So yeah, great stuff, man. Great stuff. So I'm happy enough with that. The takeaway there is a bit more work needed on bank angle and, you know, heading drift to an extent, but certainly altitude change, keeping it within that 50 feet. It's a fairly tight envelope to do. So let me see, we passed the lesson. The next lesson that we're going to tackle, not next week, but the week after, because this day next week is, of course, Christmas Day. We're going to be looking at takeoff, and we're going to learn the first steps of the fundamentals of takeoffs and landings, right? And you might think, sure, takeoff, that's easy. It is. But when you apply the logic and you factor in all of the outsiding factors on what could actually impact on your takeoff, your weight, your balance, your speed, density, altitude, temperature, all of these things all have an impact, but also getting the correct takeoff speed as well, you know. Yeah, it's terrible not, you know, I'm part-timer, no stream on Christmas Day. Yeah, if I had it my way, I would. But sure, listen, she'd murder me. Do you know what I mean? Coming live on Christmas Day. Get off that thing. Shit. Right, you know, it would happen. It would happen. So, ground acceleration, rotation, initial climb, final climb. There's a lot more to it, right? And then, of course, we have our landing phases, a final approach, landing, and rollout. There's quite a bit to go in still with these lessons. And don't forget, lads, when we finished the virtual PPL, we're going to move on to some of our own content when it comes to navigation, meteorology, radio telephony, understanding and reading charts. So there's quite a lot more. We do this on a Thursday, except for not next Thursday, but we do this on a Thursday. So and if you can't make the live stream, well, don't worry, the videos stay live or the videos stay active up on YouTube. There is a playlist specifically for pilot training. And that's where all of this stuff is. So if you go over to the tube of view and have a quick look, right? If you go down into playlists, Learn to Fly, it has its own playlist. Stay active up on YouTube. There's a Muppet. But you'll have all... Oh, look, that's me live. But you'll see where they all are on the right-hand side. There are two videos for each and every stream, because that's either the vertical stream, there is a playlist specifically for... That's what I look like on the phone, or we have it this way.
It's contact with the spoon.
So you'll see the crack there, all right? So they're all available over on YouTube. Plus all our ATC stuff is there. There's tons of content on YouTube. So head on over there, drop a like in a video, comment on the video if you're new to it, saying, yeah, Murph, I watched this. You're a big idiot. Right? So I know you looked at them. Hayden is here. Good to see you, man. I can see you wouldn't be live on Christmas Day for long. Yeah, not long at all. Not long at all. I hope you're well, Hayden. Welcome in, buddy. So that's where we're going to leave today's pilot training with Navigraph. We're going to move on now to planning our VATSIM flight for tonight, in which we're taking a 737, probably the MAX, and we're going to be flying for our Christmas VATSIM event, which is happening at 2000 Zulu this evening. And there's a bit to go through that. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up some information. So what we have, we've a lot of stuff here, because Naughty Gnome is an absolute ledge, right? If I go over to here, we go to our Christmas special. We'll okay that. There's also a video, but we'll be playing the video later on. So, Mission North. This is what we're doing tonight, lads. Mission North, right? The time has come for Mission North. Cargo for Claus. Father Christmas gave me a phone call. A naughty gnome used terrible small hands. The devil. What we need to do today, we're going to be flying out of Stockholm Arlanda, Sweden, over to, is it Rovaniemi? Airport over in Finland. And we're expecting a good bit of ATC along the way. Now, departure scenery, there is one from Orbex. The handcrafted one seems to be fairly all right. The arrival scenery, I have one there from, I think it's MK Studios, right? What do you mean the photo you sent me? That was the... Shag off, will you? Flipper Ally, good to see you, buddy. 8 a.m. here and I missed 2 hours of the stream. Don't worry, we'll be here for another little bit. We also have our Simbury flight plan. We'll go ahead and click on that, right? And then we have a full briefing for tonight as well. So what I'm going to do, we're going to have a look at our briefing next. So there's a Simbury flight plan. We'll get into that now in a moment, but I'll have a look at our briefing. The time has come for Mission North, and this is what we need to be figuring out tonight. So our mission details. What's happening? We need to fly from Stockholm Arlanda over to Rovaniemi in Finland, right? There's a departure scenery, our arrival scenery, our Simbrief plan is there. Information on cold weather operations is after the departure briefing section. So our departure briefing, full details on the departures can be found here. And we can also grab some information over on Navigraph as well, right? Mine Scars, welcome in, watching from Nigeria. Hello from Tipperary. I hope you're very well. Good morning to you. So Stockholm Arlanda. So the airport, main airport, it's the largest and busiest airport in Sweden, located around 40 kilometers north of Stockholm. The airport officially opened in 1962, although the first aircraft landed there several years later. Arlanda is serviced by over 70 airliners with around 170 destinations, and some 26 million people pass through the airport annually. It's also an important cargo hub. Originally, the airport had 2 runways. A third was opened in 2003. So that's a layout. We'll have a look at all this here now in a moment. Stand allocation. Terminal 3, domestic turboprops. Sengen and non-Sengen would be Terminal 2. I imagine that's going to be us. What else do we have? Remote stands, long-term parking, maintenance stands, operations, large aircraft, A380s and so on and so forth. Shouldn't apply. IFR clearance. At first contact with clearance delivery, state your type of aircraft, stand number, and latest ATIS transition, including identification letter and QNH. First contact would be state type of aircraft. So it would be November or Firefly 235, Boeing 737 MAX, on stand 22. Information Alpha with QNH 1022 or something like that, right? If a different runway than the runway in use is required, the performance reasons, this request shall be made in connection to the request of IFR clearance. And if you're unable to follow FMS or NAV SIDS, inform ATC about it. Low speed departures won't be us. Startup approval, simulating a CDM departure. Clearance delivery will give a startup approval time, or a TSAT, right? Report ready to clearance delivery within plus or minus 5 minutes. Clearance delivery will give instructions to contact the appropriate ground frequency. Ground will give approval for startup and pushback where required. Now, pushback is generally required for all jet aircraft unless you're parked down at Terminal 3 on apron or stand or Niner Charlie, apron G, and also apron S. Pushback procedure charts are available. If you're using GSX with an appropriate configuration, GSX will push you to the standard positions according to the document. The assigned transponder code shall be selected and the transponder activated at the request for pushback. Fair enough. Unless otherwise instructed by ATC, the standard taxi routes shall be followed. After landing, if no taxi instruction have been received, make sure you're fully vacated the runway and hold before the first fixed or the first parallel taxiway. Grand. Taxi clearances will normally not include a complex taxi route. All right, fair enough. Takeoff and climb, unless otherwise stated, aircraft cleared via the SID shall climb to 5,000 feet. Contact Stockholm Control when instructed by tower, so it's no automatic handover. And then on initial contact with Stockholm, report your altitude and to verify your transponder mode Charlie. Fair enough. Star arrival, plan your descent into Stockholm won't apply. Speed restrictions won't apply. Approaches won't apply. All right, so that's all well and good there. Let's go back into our briefing. Key information, unless otherwise instructed, it's 5,000 feet. Right? Read the bit in blue. Sorry, Naughty. What did I miss? Some SID designators are based on a point just before the first flight planned point. For example, if a flight planned is via ARS and departing runway 19 or left, the SID should be ARS 5E or the Ronchi 5Q. Be careful to fly to the right departure. Okay. Taxi, after landing, if no taxi instructions have been received, make sure you have fully vacated the runway. That's okay. Taxi clearance will not include the complete taxi route. Pilots are expected to follow the standard taxi routes. When 01 or 19 or left are in use, pilots will be instructed to use whiskey or uniform. Here's uniform, there's whiskey. Okay, we'll watch that for later on. So taxi clearances will not normally include the complete taxi route. Interesting. Okay, we'll want to watch that. So the routes are directional, okay, as per the diagram. So if we're coming from the north down, it's going to be whiskey. If we're coming from that doesn't make sense. Oh, it does make sense. Sorry, it does make sense. Yeah. Okay, all right, we'll have a look at that in our charts as well. Progressive taxi might be required. Right, what are we doing here now? Back into our briefing. Departure briefing, unless otherwise instructed, we know the crack, 5,000 feet. De-icing, all de-icing is done on your stand. For those wishing to simulate this with GSX, just do so. You don't need to request ATC. Once your de-icing has completed, then you can call for push and start. Baba Shag, welcome in. How are you, Murph? Hope you're having a great day. Is flight sim worth getting on PS5? I'm completely new to this flight sim stuff. Baba, you're very welcome in. If you currently have a PlayStation 5, I would say yes, grab it. Or if you have a PC, you can definitely get more out of the flight sim if you go on PC. It gives you access to things like VATSIM and at the moment a lot of hardware. But if you don't have a PC strong enough and you have a PlayStation 5, definitely pick it up. It's worth getting, mate. It's very, very good. Do you know? Let me see now. Under Danielson, you're very welcome aboard. Thank you for the follow. Happy Thursday. You're welcome in. So de-icing is grand. Aircraft wanting to avoid pushback, you can go at Terminal 3. Apron Golf is for maintenance. Apron Romeo is cargo. And Apron Sierra is general aviation. I'll have to keep an eye on this. Apron Alpha Bravo has unconventional pushbacks. There is a good GSX profile. Okay. Taxi clearances, we'll have to keep an eye on that, as Naughty was telling us. Takeoff clearance may not include wind information, so don't worry if you don't get it. We will have to listen to the ATIS. Cold weather operations, freezing conditions exist on the ground when the outside air temperature is +3 or below. Visible moisture and there's clouds, or there's ice and snow. If freezing conditions are present, please refer to your airline aircraft winter ops checklist. Anti-ice, de-ice, and so on. Cold temperature barometric altimeter errors, it can happen. Standard temperature at sea level 15 degrees Celsius. If the temperature gradient from sea is -2, it's going to be 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit per 1,000 feet. At 5,000 feet above sea level, the ambient temperature on the standard day will be 5 degrees Celsius. When the ambient temperature is colder at lower. Again, the sim is going to handle this, you know. Ed, good to see you, bud. Yeah, 800's out today. Effects of cold temperature and baro with your vertical nav guidance. I mean, you can cheat and just go to the standard baro in the sim, but there is a deviation of what the aircraft is detecting versus the altitude. I don't think that's simulated though, Naughty, is it? If it is, brilliant. But I don't think it is. Okay, so there's our briefing. Happy enough with that. So let us now look at the routing. The aircraft we're planning for, I don't think it is now. It could be. I don't think it is though. The aircraft we're going for right now, we're planning the MAX. So that's going to be a 73M or 38M. ESSA up to EFRO. It's giving us runway 19 right departure with runway 21 arrival. Our route is going to be via the Resna, right? The Resna 5 Golf. Oh, come here, Naughty. There was something very funny I was going to say to you. I don't know how you managed it. We were talking about our departure, and I said, this is typical Naughty Gnome, because he's after figuring out a way to give us a SID. Where did I see it? I read it like I was, 13 years old, because it was the ARS5E departure, and it's like he literally gave us the arse departure, right? Brilliant. But anyway, let's not worry about that. What we're looking at here is sim brief. I want to go over to the VATSIM radar website. We're also going to check out VentuSky because we're going to get an idea of the weather. So we have left the United States this week, and now we're over in Europe, and we're going to have a look here. So let us have a look at some mappage. Okay, so departing from ESSA to EFRO. Let's have a look. Ireland, and we're kicking straight across north of Finland. So we're going to be from Shaw, departing from here, and arriving up here somewhere. Is it Oulu, is it? North of it. It's just up here. Okay, so this is the temperature at the moment. I'm going to move the time to live time later on. This is going to be 8 o'clock tonight. So our departure temperature later on, we're expecting about 5 or 6 degrees Celsius around Stockholm. And our destination, it's sitting on freezing to kind of -1. So it's cold where we get up there, right? And that's the temperature. If we look at the wind speeds, ground level, and we'll look for some deviations here. It's a southwesterly wind, right? And it doesn't seem to have any major changes. So it looks to be coming from the south. 19er is perfect for takeoff. You take off into the wind, yeah? So we're looking at about 7 to 10 knots. All right. When we land, give ourselves 2 hours. When we land, again, we're looking at southerly winds, right? There's a bit of jiggery-pokery here. There is a weather front moving in, right? That barb is coming closer and closer. So there's high pressure coming in here. That's going to bring, from cold pressure, that could bring a bit of snow. 12 knots. 12 knots over land. We'll be coming in. We'll have a bit of a tailwind. Now, if we look at the wind when it comes to our cruising altitude, well, let's have a look. We're going to be dealing with, 90 odd knots of a crosswind, but it is going to help us. That crosswind is actually going to give us an element of a tailwind, a gentle push along we go. Now, I don't know how high we're going tonight, but 90 to 100 knots. And there's no real change on that. We're going to be getting a tailwind. So this is good news for flight time. Next thing, we want to look at cloud cover. So if we have a look at, say, 8 o'clock down in Stockholm, it's pretty much overcast, but there is breaks in it, 70-80%. And as we ramble up north, it's going to be overcast or 90 degrees. So there'll be a little bit. Cold weather altitude variation is simulated, but only when using live weather. All right, okay. No, you're not hogging it. Don't worry, man. Don't worry. So we do need to watch for that, is what you're saying. Naughty, make sure you're not behind me when we take off tonight. I'll make sure I'm behind you, right? But yes, so that's going to be the crack there. The last thing I want to look at is going to be precip. So precip is stuff falling out of the sky. And if we have a look at it between 6 and 9 o'clock Stockholm, there will be showers in the area. It's not showing any significant showers, right? But if we have a look at our destination, we will be coming into 1 or 2 centimeters of snow. If we look for any snow cover, yeah, we're landing in lots of snow. So we want to take that into consideration a little bit later on, okay? It's not necessarily going to be freezing. It's, heavily, right? 0 or 1 degree. We could expect ice, right? But we know we're going to have some interesting weather this evening. Unfortunately, no aurora borealis forecasts. What a pity. We'll have to get creative. There will be a laser light show. There won't. Right, so the weather is actually a bit tricky here this evening, right? Snow in Lapland in December. I mean, who'd have known? Who'd have known? So let's have a look. It's going to give us a block time of 1 hour 50. Now, is invalid for route distance. Look at this one now. NEPID is invalid for 21. That's okay. Sure, fix it. Here we go. It'll just give us a new star. Epics, and then in. Right, so we're going to generate this flight. Let's see what altitude it gives us, right? And then we're going to load in our sceneries, make sure everything's working, connect to VATSIM, you know, make sure all that jazz is working. So we have our weather briefing. 35,000 feet is what it's giving us, flight level 350. We can go plus or minus 2,000 feet here, but we'll leave it alone for the moment. So there's our flight plan in. We're now going to go back into our simulator, and we'll go back. And with thanks to the very talented CornWolf, we have a brand new livery to showcase. And he's made one for the 777, the 737 MAX, and also the A320. I'm going in the MAX, that's what I'm planning. So we're going to load in Stockholm Arlanda, and let's have a look over here at the airport. So looking at, well, pure clouds, Murph. Look, if we look at our charts, right, so if we want to go now to IFR high, we're going to import the flight directly from SimBrief. And let's have a look over here. That's what our routing looks like. If we want to have a look at the airport, where do we want to be at? Our departure runway is runway 19 right, meaning we're going to be going via uniform. All right, the different terminal numbers and the aprons, right? This is going to be important. Terminal 2, we kind of know what the crack is with Terminal 2, purely from it's the Sengen or non-Sengen departures. But also there are parts at Terminal 3 where pushback is not a requirement. So, you know, we don't want to worry about a push and start. We're just going to look for a start, right? So if we're unsure, back into the briefing document, and if we have a look, in there, aircraft wanting to avoid parking on apron, parking at Terminal 3, apron or stand or 9 center. Terminal 3, apron, apron or, oh, sorry, Terminal 3 or apron 4. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Any bills just announced KDFW. Ooh. De-icing stand, but we can de-ice on the ground. Swap, good to see you, buddy. And Energizer, you're very welcome in, my friend. How are you? Right, we'll say 54. Will that do us? We'll jump in on 54 for the sheer crack and laughter of it, right? So gate 54. Now, looking at this, I don't know what direction it's going to push us, but there's definitely a push here. That is definitely a push and start situation. But let's load in and have a look. So weather, custom, let's go live. Let's go live. And let's load in. It's cold in Sweden. Somebody hid me slippers. Right, let us see what happens here, sports fans. Also, the MD-11 is coming out soon. I actually have the updated MD-11. Not brave enough to fly it on VATSIM tonight, but I will fly it soon. I think Jamie's showing it off there now in a minute. But we have a brand new livery I want to show you. CornWolf created a new livery for, as I said, the 777, the MAX, and also the A320 for this very event. And that's the aircraft in which we are going to fly this evening, right? So, yeah, I don't know where I've parked, but there's definitely going to be a push here. Defo. Now, as that's loading in, let's do this. So we're going to be over here somewhere. Now, they were saying it's going to be taxi uniform. If I'm over here and we're going from 19 or left, I can't use whiskey or uniform. Does that make sense? So we will have to get a taxi instruction, which is going to be from this location, Zulu or Yankee. And it'll be Yankee. And then we're coming up to here. All right. Did you park where currently being constructed done in terminal? I hope not. I hope not. The diagram shows the directions. Okay, can you make this a little bit clearer for me? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Good man. That's what you meant. Can you make it clearer for me? Murphy, it couldn't be any more shagging clearer. So Yankee means we can go north. Right. Lads, I've always told I'm a special kind of stupid. Right, let us have a look. Yes? Ready to fly? Ah, would you look? No comment. Right, hang on. Need to make sure everything's working here. Start that gadget. Hardware. Moby. There's all sorts of chatter in me plane. Bravo throttle, no. So if I just say, okay, we should be still configured to our 7.3. Hide that gadget. Now, that is Aero Tone from Soulfly playing. Murph, did you by any chance share your open track Toby settings? I'm not sure actually, Royd, if I did. Hang on there now. Ground bump rolls, why not? Snow effects, why not? Cabin environment, galley noises. Fishtall them now. Cabin environment, no. Pilots, no. Wind effects, yes, we want those. Aircraft movement, we want those. And we're set for an airliner. We're going to save the profile now, and that'll be forevermore. Flight deck environment. All right. So here we have the new livery. Let's have a look. Ooh, it's very red. It's very red and white, and it has things. Who's that supposed to be? Doesn't Santa have like a white beard? CornWolf, is that you trying to... Mission North, cargo for claws, right? Firefly Air. Are you taking the Dennis Hickey? Is that supposed to look like... Well, I like the hair colour, in fairness. CornWolf, you and I need to have a discussion. It'll be a very long walk off a very short plank. The Santa also has small hands. Yeah, thanks, Stu. Yeah, critical views there. Mother of Jesus, right? There's too much hair on that guy. What do you mean the likeliness is uncanny? I tried some ways of making liveries, it's so hard.
I get a refund?
I want a refund. Well, he didn't charge for this in fairness, but I still want a refund. And this is available over on the gadget for you to download. You should burn him with fire. Burn him with fire. And look, he even put me on the wingtips. Well, I'm saying it's me. It's not me, though. I mean... Who is that supposed to be? Because Santa Claus is supposed to have a white beard. That's bleeding terrible. Who did this? CornWolf. He's a lot of explaining to do. And it's because he did such a good job in it, I have to use it? Oh, Jesus. Riot. That's our machining for this evening. Right? Bloody hell. Right, cold and dark. Let's put some power into this machine here, please. System page, yes. Sim menu, yes. Ground support. Electrics, set. Now, GSX. Allow that. Request deboarding. Asher, give us the old Norwegian Air Shuttle. What a nice job. Yeah, fire elf air. Bet he's hiding until the heat dies down. Right. Let's have a look. So, battery coming on. Emergency lights armed. Ground power activate. Let's see here. We want some lightage. There we go. And some alignment needed. Voice recorder. On. We can go ahead and put on our window heats. What else do we want to do here now? We'll turn on one of the gadgets. Logo, wing lights can come on here as well. Electrical pumps. Make sure my MCP is working. It is working. Excellent. We're looking good here. We're looking good there. Let's go ahead and connect to VATSIM. Before we do that, make sure we don't spawn in on top of some poor old devil. ESSA. Oh, there's a bit of activity over here. There's no ATC coverage though. There's a new version available. Download and install. Why the devil not? vPilot over here. Low oil pressure. End user agreement.
Passengers deboarding starting.
Yes. Yes. Yes and yes. Right. She's thinking about it. Connecting to loading. Let's see what happens. The windows are not see-through though. Am I using reshade to tweak? Barry, yes, I am. Directly the other side of the building you're looking at. Oh wait, balls, are they? Right, that's connected. That's connected. We're now connected. Let's have a look at the scenery. Jesus, that was good luck. I literally loaded in beside people. The bleeding thing is crooked. So the ones directly opposite, you say? Oh, them ones in there, look. Okay. It doesn't really matter. We'll see what the crack is. Windows are not see-through because it's a cargo conversion. Oh, wait, hang on. He's gone with the cargo conversion. Okay, so we pretend it's a cargo conversion. That's okay. That's okay. Simulated outside cargo. Yeah. No. We use your imagination. It's grand. Right, so this is the... Is this the default airport? I think it is. There's a man taxiing. Now, am I right in saying we go CTAF with, here, is that right? No, there's no CTAF. We don't need CTAF. Oh, it's Unicom. We're only using TAF in the US. Okay. 1228, radio's on. We'll give a shout. Stockholm traffic, Firefly 235, radio check.
5x5.
5x5, thanks. Nice, right, that's working, and we have VATSIM connections. What else do we need to do? The aircraft, in terms of getting it set up, we should be okay. Nav data's okay. And then GSX and all the jazz should be okay. Right, so bit of we will get a push on a start. We'll be taxiing forward, then it'll be up on Yankee. And then it'll be up over yonder and then out. Okay. We're in Europe now, yes. Right, let us load into our destination to make sure that this is all working tickety-boo. And our destination is going to be up on EFRO. EFRO. Do. I'm almost certain I have scenery for this from MK. I do. And let us just throw ourselves... We're going to be on the cargo side, are we not? Oh, military. Military. Be the Janie then. And then where's cargo? Well, if I was cargo, I'll just go down here somewhere. Yep. And yes. Boing. It's a Boeing. Let's see what happens here. Okay, this is current time. What's it going to be like to see? Oh, jeez, there's snow on the ground. What's it going to be like this evening? let's skip the time of day up to what it's going to. Oh, it's going to be nighttime. Are you serious? Right, it's going to be nighttime. It's going to be dark. Yeah. Just why I posted some previews of the A300. Can't wait for that. Oh yeah, man. Look, snow on the ground. We're already freezing. We're freezing. Yeah, you get fresh bit. Sim ground support. Connect the electrical. Set up onto the overhead. Did we navigate or no? Ground power. What's your light, Smurf? Is it Alt and L? Yes, me red light. It's alright, I fixed it. Now, if I was a dome light, I'd be up there. Brilliant. Ground power. And let us see. Panel brightness is good. Put them on. Put them on. Them on. That on. That on. Down here. These on. That on. Oh, I'm looking forward to this nighttime flight. It's going to be class. It's going to be class. I'm down here now. Yeah, it's the max. Yeah. Did we get a time in which PMDG are releasing their machine for 30-ish euros? Okay. Looking good, and looking good. Can I use the air stairs on this? Pneumatic air conditioning fueling. Next. Forward air stair. Set. Back. Doors. Left forward entry. Open. Oh, they don't have like the Ryanair air stairs, do they not? Interesting. Let me see here now. GSX.
Refueling truck is on its way.
Refueling truck? It's on its way. Right, let's go exploring around this place. It's going to be pure night time as we're rambling in. This is the MK Studio scenery, and it's all in Christmas decorations, look. Oh! Brilliant. Can't see a thing. Let's do one of these. Oh, yeah. Oh, heck yeah.
Is in position.
Runway 21 is what we're going for. Wonder if Dublin has Christmas lights. Do you remember Air Range used to go all out for Christmas? Do you remember that? You can buy it in the store for 375 million. I saw that. Dennis says, I have to fly tonight. How are nighttime flights? They're in the dark. They're grand though. You know, they're a bit of fun. Post 1700. Okay. Naughty, what are you flying with tonight? The good news is, lads, there's effectively nothing out here, only ourselves. You're in the max as well? Okay. An ILS approach will be absolutely required. There is nothing else out here. For miles upon miles upon miles. So this is what she's going to look like later on. Look at the snow. Oh yeah, man, there's loads of snow. Loads of snow. Now, there's no precip at the moment, from what you can see. But there is going to be snow. Definitely. Alright, let's have a look. So the aircraft seems to be fine. Let us reconnect to VATSIM. And is there anyone up the road? There is. We should have traffic to our right hand side. Ah, stupid windows. System. Where is this hiding now? Panel state, miscellaneous, Windows. If I say open for the crack, There we go. Okay, we got an aircraft left, another aircraft left. There is live ATC here at the moment, so let us go for the ATIS 133.7 1337.
LS Zulu approach expected. Runway 21 in use. Transition level 65. Automatic report. When touchdown zone 140 degrees. 6 knots. Visibility 4,100 meters. Mist. Cloud. Overcast 100 feet. Temperature -3. Dew point -4. QNH 1006. Advise on initial contact. You have information. Bravo.
18525.
This is Rovaniemi arrival and departure information. Bravo. At time 1320.
So that's clearance delivery. We're tuned into them. So it's good to see that they have ATC up here already. And as I said, there's a bit of traffic here. Oh, look at this. No! Now wait, hang on. Weren't my shadows shagged last week? Are they still looking shagged? No, I think we're okay. I won't shag the thing this week. Should be grand. Right, okay, so that's how we're looking. Let's go in now and look at the flight plan and charts. Our departure out of Stockholm. We're on the Resna 3 Bravo. 5,000 feet is what we're after. Resna 3 Bravo, climb on 004 track Resna non-ORNAV climb. So initial clearance 5,000, that's okay. So we're departing out of 19er left or 19er right. So it's over to the right hand side and out this way. Looks like a fairly straightforward departure. Yeah, up to Resna. Northland Air, good morning to you, buddy. Dennis says, any tips for an Airbus flyer? Have you flown sorry, is it Dennis or Denise? I beg your pardon. Looks like Denise. Have you flown in VATSIM before? Okay, our departure looks good. Let us look at our arrival. So we're on the Nepi 3 Charlie. This doesn't look right. Oh no, not pretty sure. Okay, the approach is ILS. Let us see. We're going to be landing on runway 21 from Nepix. So Vekip, I suppose. Would that be right? ILS or category 2? I'd say category 2. This is very interesting. The missed approach, see this? Climb straight ahead to Ropov and hold at 2,500 feet. There's no hold, so you just out. I love that. Alright. Let's have a look. So what we're looking at here on the charts, right? The airport identifier, the ILS, what we're going for. I've gone with Z. Should it be Z or Y? I think Z is fine. Localizer frequency, final approach is going to be 204 degrees. Our decision height is going to be a 10. Or decision altitude height 200. Missed approach is going to be climb straight ahead to Ropov. RMP approach. Altitude select hectopascals. Running elevation 22. Transition level as described. Transition altitude 5,000. Timing not authorized. That's okay. So NIPAC, INSAR, and then our glide slope is going to be 3 degrees, and then our speeds, ground speed 140 probably. Standard state or with glide slope out, it'll be this one. Okay. Well, Dillian, welcome in. Dano, welcome in. Isnar. If I'm here, so we're coming in this way. Looks fairly straightforward. So climb ahead down to Ropov, and there is a hold at Ropov, right? So let's have a look at the airport. And here now, runway 21, category 2 operations, special aircrew and aircraft certification required. So that'll be okay. Aircraft intended to use whole runway length from taxiway Fox, Golf and Lima intersection shall inform the tower. That makes sense because it means you have to back taxi. See that? So if we're coming in on 2-1, jeez, we should be off by Lima. If we miss Lima, we could go Alpha, but we'll have to tell. It says there, if they intend to use the full runway from taxiway Fox, Golf and Lima intersection, shall inform. Is that more for takeoff? Landing shouldn't really worry, but that'd be takeoff. Alright. Takeoff run available. These are our intersections, so if we were to be... Well, we're not taking off here, so it doesn't matter. Alright. Not important. That sounds like takeoff. Yeah. Observe taxiway lights separating taxiway Tango and the civil apron. Alright. So, Ropov, there is a hold at Ropov. We could be parked there for a while, but I'm not too worried. This is going to be a nice flight. This is going to be a lovely flight. Gorgeous. Right, who else do you want to talk to now?
Rovaniemi delivery, hello, Lufthansa 853, request IFR collisions to Frankfurt as filed information Bravo, QNH 1006. Lufthansa 853, clear to Frankfurt, runway 21, runway 4, Alpha, maintain flight 43, squawk 261. Let's say again, squawk for Lufthansa 853. 2261. Clear to Frankfurt, runway 1, runway 4 Alpha departure, climb flight level 330, squawk 226 on Lufthansa 853.
Now remember to speak slowly tonight because you're going to be dealing with accents and they're going to be dealing with accents, so we'll want to watch for that, yeah? Alright, okay, so at this stage I'll get out of everyone's way. Good luck and thanks. At this stage we've looked at the weather, right? We've looked at our procedures, both departure and arrival, are en route, cruise level 350. Scenery's working well, no major stutters or problems. Aircraft is loaded up well, no major or glaring issues. And our audio is working, so consider ourselves briefed for tonight's flight. Looking forward to it. And I suppose we'll just have to wait and see. We'll get our flight plan organised a little bit later on. And yeah, this should be a really nice flight. So kick off for this one, lads, at 2000 Zulu later on this afternoon. That is what we're doing. And our flight plan is there. We've reviewed everything with Venture Sky, which is ideal as well. And what else have we to do? I think we're good. Yeah, I think we're good. Right, lads, so what we're going to do now, we're going to ramble over and raid Kenko because he's in the MD-11, the new Pratt & Whitney update, and he's in an Aer Lingus livery and it looks fab. So we will be back to you in 5 hours and 10 minutes time. 6 hours and 10 minutes time, right? Now make sure you're there now, right? I'll be asking questions later on. So thank you all so very much for keeping me company here this morning. Hope you enjoyed our Navigraph Pilot Academy as we continue on with our training. And yeah, looking forward very much to this flight tonight. So enjoy the rest of your afternoon and we'll see you this evening. Fancy pedals.
Fancy pedals.
Uh-oh.
No. This is... Listen. It's a hurricane. It's a hurricane. Oh, power off. Bit of right rudder. Bleed that speed. Oh, look at that. I gotta brake now. Brake. Oh, wait, where's your button? Here you are.
It's a thing.
Oh, in a hurricane.
Put it onto easy mode.
Thank you very much.
state of that for a landing.
Can I just say, if you're busy any evening on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm available.
Will you give me like tutorials or something? Will you?
I'll do it.